Hello, welcome to the stream, everyone. Welcome to the stream, welcome to the guild. Part of the guild, part of the stream. I hope you're having wonderful nights. We're getting ready to get going here in just a minute. I believe I'm done doing all the stuff I need to. Let me go ahead and pause music and we'll go live on YouTube. Boop. Let me adjust my kobolds. Kobolds work. Perfect. Oh, can I change my YouTube stream title now? I was not able to do that earlier and I'm not sure why. Copy. YouTube, edit. Edit. Well, let me edit. It's so weird. Okay, whatever. Whatever. I guess that's just the name of the stream on YouTube for now. It doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't care at all. Let's go ahead and get the game ready. I didn't turn my controller on. Oof. Gonna have to turn that off, turn it back on again. And then I need to put this on. Okay, it's already on. Perfect. And hello, welcome to the stream. How's everyone doing? I hope you're all having a wonderful night. I started a little bit late, but we'll probably go a little bit late. And then, so it doesn't matter. Last time we experienced the worst hell I've ever had on this earth, with that stupid garbage Sunflora bullshit. It's bullshit. We're not doing that again. We finished it, by way of miracle. And then we had the lore dump. A little bit late. You're gonna run someone's. No, we're not. We're not gonna run Sunflora story again. I'd rather fucking die. It should suck, dude. I would not want to play that another time. Very excited. Yeah. So last time we had the lore dump, where we learned that, spoilers for this 13-year-old game, Draconayr and Grovyle were from the future, which was sick, and then we suffered in Sunflora story for about an hour and a half. Chased down Grovyle, he beat our ass. Found Draconayr, it was a whole thing. And now they're planning to bait a trap to capture him. And now we're just doing our normal jobs, so let's do our normal jobs. I don't know, I've set a different number every time. PMD, Explorers of Sky, release date. April 18th, 2009, so 15 years. This is a 15-year-old game. Damn. The 40-year-old game. It's the 15th anniversary in a few weeks. Man, I can't wait for them to do fucking nothing to celebrate the 15th anniversary of probably their best-selling Mystery Dungeon game. Invincible, the Invincible. We did the Invincible. Stop reminding me of the fucking Haunter. I'll ban you. Feel the Heat and Invincible Haunter are officially on the banned words list of my stream. I think I did all my inventory management last time, so I think we just go for it now, and we have missions to do. Let me look at my job list actually before we do anything. What am I doing? Job list. All right, what are we doing? So we have 2 drenched bluffs. I think I want the desert one, just because it's the highest rank, right? I feel like that's worth it, because everything else is like a single area. So let's just go to the desert, do the one job, and then be done. What about Feel the Haunt and Invincible Heatran? I will think about it. I'll think about those ones. Oh, how's audio, by the way? Are we all good? Can you hear me? There's no weird stuff happening? Good. Chat, good. All right, cool. No one says my sound is trash, so. I forgot I had 2 party members. All right, let's go. Garbage circle. Flamethrower. Level up. Huge. Oh, my stats, dude. Can't hear the game audio over the new Sum 41 album, but that's a me thing. You can't assume if it's good or not. I'm streaming. I need to know if it's quality. Die. Oh, we dropped a box. Give me that box. Audio good? Thank you. Thank you. Uh-oh. Oh, he made me drop my shit. Can you guys not follow me onto the traps, please? I am glad that Sum 41 is still doing music. I haven't listened to a lot of their stuff in years, to be honest. I always listen to their old stuff, so I don't know what any of their newer music sounds like at all. Stairs! Huge. Why couldn't I get this luck during the fucking Sunflora shit? Dude, that's 3 in a row. Can we go for 4? We cannot. Oops. Can you guys stop dying, please? What did I just get? A grimy egg? Oh, it's grimy food. I'm glad I can one-shot these disadvantaged enemies. HP went up by 3. Not gonna be glad for much longer. They're disbanding. Ah, that sucks. I mean, it's been 20 years at this point. Like, honestly, they deserve it. Take a rest, retire, you know? If you've made all the music you want to make, then no reason to be obligated to keep doing it just because you feel like you need to. What was the band? I forget what band. My brother was talking about a band recently that just said they made all the music they wanted to make and that's why they stopped touring. And I was like, you know, that's fair. More metal leaning. The most recent album is half recent, half old school stuff. That'd be cool. I'll have to give it a listen. I'll have to spend a day where I just like see where I listen to Sum 41 stuff. I think Catching Fire is the only more recent, so I don't know how old it is, more recent song I've heard. 2019, that's not so bad. I don't know why, I literally saw that on the way over here. I don't know why I went there. Perish. Am I fighting an outlaw, or I think, what's my job? We're just finding an orb. Okay, so super easy mission where I just find an item. Well, fuck that. What floor is this? It didn't say I have anything on it, so I'm just gonna move on. Bite the plant. And he dropped a box? Sweet. Okay, here's the floor. Oh, is that the orb? You know, it'd be sick. I missed. Why am I here again? Please. Please hit the bad guy. Bruh. Is there a reason that we can't hit this man? Hello? Jesus Christ, dude. Sandvale? Fuck him. Get your Sandvale shit out of here. Yes, take me home. A very short day. $69. Nice. Hooray, 350 gold. 90 XP. We did it. The moon. That wizard came from the moon. Lucy, what's up? Was some people refer to as a skill issue. That was not a skill issue. Fuck you. All Pokemon have both of them abilities simultaneously. That's wonderful. I love that. That's great. Are you still awake? I have to admit that today was full of surprises. The great Dusknoir's talk about coming from the future, that was mind-boggling. Dusknoir pursued Grovyle from the future to our world. He came to apprehend that wicked Grovyle and to take him back to the future. That's why the job of capturing Grovyle is his responsibility. We have to trust Dusknoir about this. To be honest, I would like to capture Grovyle ourselves, but I'm not up to the task yet. We don't have any choice but to depend on Dusknoir at all. I guess you're asleep. I'd better get to sleep too. Be great if Grovyle gets caught soon. Good night. What's the meme where they're like, "Are you awake? I can't sleep." Well, I can. Good night. That's the meme, right? One second. There we go. Every time I stream a game a friend likes, I feel obligated to message them that I'm streaming in case they want to join. Fuck you mean Charmander? The flamethrower is ass. I am the Charmander. That's me. That's me. I'm the Charmander. Yep. Oh, tab into the game. Boop 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 boop. Yes, save my adventure. I just saved before doing that one job, but it's fine. So here's where it stands. We have yet to receive word of Grovyle's capture. I didn't read. I just didn't read that. I don't know. I don't know what happened. Corfish talked and I blue screened. We don't know that either. We've received no information at all. We're in the dark. That said, we can't go off on our own and soil the trap. We will have to stand down until we receive word of some sort. Until then, we should carry on with our usual work. Go do jobs from the job board. It's just a core. I think he said something about Mesprit not having told us anything. Probably. You too. Today, take jobs from the job bulletin board and the outlaw board. That will do. All right. Oh, let's see what Krogan has to swap today. Playing the original cartridge game on your original Nintendo. Yeah. I'm playing on my. I have a capture card for DS, and I'm playing on my original DS system with my original game cartridge that didn't cost. Ooh. That's one of the ones I want. Another special attack boost. Gamers, I'm going to do so much damage. Sunscarf. Oh, that's the Sunflora specific one. I don't really care. I'll never use that or Cleffa, probably. Give me... Mwah. Whoa! Nope, I got all the things I wanted. So now I have better attack. Let's look at the board. Did you just rip that off? Maybe. I mean, I got it from someone else. So I got it out of a treasure chest. So I did not do any ripping. Okay, so I want any of Bluff, Bristle. I guess if there's a Drenched Bluff mission, I'm going to do it. Let's go look at the bounty board. I'll go look at the other one for a bluff mission first. No bluffs. Okay. Bristle, Woods, Coast, and Forest. Mount Bristle. Okay, we're gonna do Mount Bristle. Whoops. Yeah, lots of bristles. We're bristling. At least it's used to just carry it around. Like Slowpoke's tail, what'd you eat? The S bounty. We're gonna do the S bounty later because I want to do more than one bounty or more than one job at a time, so I can clear off my board. I didn't get any gummies from the last mission. I didn't get much of anything, to be honest. Let's go unlock the 2 chests I grabbed, throw some stuff in the storage, and then we'll move on. Should I link moves? I need to look at linking again. If I link moves, it uses the PP for both, right? There was something about the second move that we learned that I forgot what the rule was. I'll go talk to the guy about linking here in a sec. But eats 3 PP. Okay, that's kind of what I thought. The Chocobo Queet. No, Chocobos que. They que and they work. It's not the same. Don't be ridiculous. We're gonna get rid of the Cleffer card and the Dew. Is that it? That might be it. Yeah, I think that's it. Whoops, no, yeah, I do want that. Please do. I'm sorry for lying. Okay. Anything cool? Light screen, that's kind of useful. But for now, I'm just gonna not. I'll go ahead and work your... Do it, I'm into that. Haha, joke's on you. I'll buy both. I got the money. Why not? And we'll put that in the bank. I didn't mean to... There we go. No, you're not allowed to call me that. That banned. That word is banned from my chat now. Do I have any moves I want to link? I would link... That's not a bad idea. Okay, when you say father, now it sounds culty. Now it sounds like a cult. I'm gonna link Scary Face with an attack. That's actually not a bad idea. Link Scary Face. Whoops. You can't link Scary Face? Bruh, lame. What's the point? Is it worth linking my other moves? I don't feel like it is. Oh, you can only link... Okay. Oh. It links the move below it. I see. That makes sense. Should I do Wide Slash? I feel like I should Scary Face Wide Slash. Because Fire Fang is better for me to be able to have on hand. Probably. Let's do that. There we go. Okay, now I can slow, since I will keep Scary Face forever, now I can slow and then also still attack on the same turn. Go pursue to the PP, the lower PP move. It becomes unlinked if it runs out of PP. I think that's okay. That's why I have Fire Fang, because then I can slow, hit on the same turn, and then with Wide Slash, I would want to look at a different Pokemon to slow again anyway. I think Wide Slash is a very good move to link with. What do I do here? You can't link Solar Beam. Shocker. Should I link Swords Dance and Quick Attack? But then I can't use Quick Attack because I'd Swords Dance every time. So I don't think I link any of those moves. Would it though? Because then I would have to. Because then he would have to use Swords Dance every single time. I don't feel like that would help very much. Do I have any eggs? No, stop. I didn't mean to talk to you again. I don't have any eggs. Leave me alone. Bah. All right. Let's just do another missions. When you're gonna fight a boss. I mean, I guess, but I don't want it to always be linked. I'd rather just have him do his own thing, because I'll be using items on the boss anyway to make them fall asleep for setups and stuff. So I think I want Mountain Bristol because there's two things here. Trust me, I have my plans. I have my plans. When you're about to fight a boss, can you link the moves right before you fight a boss? Not normally. Take item. Okay, so on 5th floor. So 5 and 6. We're looking for a Vespiquen and a Volbeat. Both of which are gonna get destroyed. Link it in the city and then go to the dungeon. Well, I've never played this game before, so I don't know when I'm gonna fight bosses. What do you want from me? No, I already have a Starly. What the fuck is a waste of time? I feel cheated. I missed. Oh no, 1 damage. How old is it? What dungeon is this? Oh, I don't have a set move because I moved him around. Whoops, meant to set it. I'm just saying. Well, I don't know when I'm gonna fight bosses, you know? I can assume, but I can't ever be sure, and I already have trouble with my move usage in this game already. So linking moves will just make that a little bit more of a problem. The 4th or 5th dungeon. Yeah, this one's like very beginning. I'm gonna destroy the guy here. Alright, floor 5. Take the thing from Vespiquen. Oh, an outlaw. Perish. Why does the Vespiquen have pressure? Heal order. Get the hell out of here. Perish. Hooray! I do not want to leave. Yes, we're gonna keep going. He's got it covered. It's fine. Yeah, the XP means nothing to me. Oh my god, the full beat. Oh, he lived. Never mind. Intimidate? Was it intimidate? It procced whenever I used a move, so I think it was pressure because it was using my double my PP. Yeah, we're done. Easy. Instantly destroy. Yeah, I kind of destroyed him. Vespiquen does have pressure. Interesting. Here's your radar orb. Yo, max elixir. Huge. Here's your Volbeat. Take as an image reward. Heal seed. Purple gummy. More gummies. Huge. Yeah, what's up, Neat Dreams? I'm doing good. We're just kind of in an in-between spot right now between story beats. So I'm kind of speedrunning and doing garbage. Should do again? Maybe you should. My friend was talking about this game a lot recently, which is why I'm playing it now. And then I feel like I'm pretty far. And after we beat this game, we're gonna do Spyro. We're gonna play Spyro 2 again for speedruns. Listen, I wonder how Zelf and his friends are doing. Do you think that they may be fighting Grovyle now? I just can't sleep with that on my mind. If you stop to think, this is also strange. Pokemon coming here from the future? Something like that is really possible? It's true, it's hard to accept that Pokemon could come from the future. Come to think of it, this has never crossed my mind before. The world of the future, where does not Grovyle come from? What's it like? Is the future like the present day? Is it a world of peace? It's another early day tomorrow. I'd better force myself to sleep. I'm gonna sleep. Tomorrow, let's do our best. Okay. What's up, bitch? What's up? How you doing? Yep, back to the normal. Ah, music's so good, dude. And about the attempt to capture Grovyle. We have yet to receive word that Grovyle has been captured. I wish to say you are itching for something to happen, but consider this a test of your patience, because we ask you to carry on with your usual work. Never mind, the siren's going off and shit is getting real. Battle stations. Part of the guild, part of the team. Alright. Deputy Magnemite is here. This is a message from Officer Magzone. Will you please deliver this report? Grovyle's finally been captured. Oh shit, huge. Grovyle's been caught. They did it. Grovyle was captured by Draconayr. He has informed us that you will return to the future with Grovyle. He's just leaving? He's going home? That's sus. I'm not gonna lie, that's sus as fuck. I do not clearly understand the process, but I heard that they will be going through the tunnel. He called it a dimensional hole. He opened a dimensional hole in the town's main square. Okay, he was just saying goodbye before. Okay, he is saying goodbye. Okay, never mind. Less sus. I thought he was just bouncing without saying goodbye to anybody. Yeah, let's go say hi. We have to go to the treasure town. Draconayr's a real one. Don't worry about it. Oh, he just ripped a hole in time. It's fine. It's totally fine. I don't see the Great Draconayr around yet. What's that? He doesn't. Oh, whatever, remember. Get me on the technicality, will you? I'm going through this hole, right? Am I gonna get sucked in here? Is that what's happening? Also, no context. I'm going through this hole, right? What Magnemite was trying to explain earlier. Oh, this is it. Isn't that something? Stepping inside here, this thing will take you to the future? Whoa! He was really about to just do it. Bidoof be like, bruh, do I become the greatest adventurer that's ever lived? I have to know. I have to go to the future and find out. Wiggly lions, I must touch them. Hey, Uxie, Mesprit, the self. You got it, Aniv, with your totally real wife and the totally real alcohol that you're gonna drink with her. I thought it said, I gotta get drunk with my wife and girlfriend. That's what I read the first time, and I'm like, Aniv, that's not... I guess technically... Would you consider your wife still your girlfriend? I would call my wife my ex-fiance, but I don't know if they would stop being your girlfriend, you know? The wife is Nurasama, the AIV tuber. Truly the quintessential Twitch chat, for real though. You're all safe. Am I glad to see that? Was the plan successful? Yep. I have to hand it to the Great Draconayr. It was flawless. Gravell's been captured. We regained all the time gear seed stolen. That's excellent. Draconayr should be along shortly. Who's that? It's the Great Draconayr. Here he comes. Oh, he's all tied up. Hot. Who are these Sableye? He looks like a bad guy, that's for sure. World was nearly ruined because of him. Okay, how does he escape? I thought about my ex amicable earlier when you said can't sleep. I can. Good night. If he was throwing up whistle and he just went back to sleep. That's so rude. I can't sleep. I can. Good night. That's such the energy. Tied up Gravell introduced me to Whoa. Whoa. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. And today I would like to share excellent news with you. Finally, Gravell has been captured. Woo! Woo! We did it! Cool. This was all made possible by your selfless support and cooperation. I can't thank you enough. Woo! Yeah, clapping! Woo! More clapping! Let's go. As you can see, Gravell is a vicious and wicked Pokemon. His capture should result in lasting peace for your world. I know it's not a bell, but I just want to ding the bell thing on Draconayr's head so bad. Like the ding ding ding. I have that. That's an ADHD fixation. I have to stop myself from performing a lot when I have access to those bells. There we go. I didn't do it. You want... No, Lucy, please. Looks like they have Gravell muzzled. You can't say a word that way. But I must also deliver a piece of sad news. It is time for me to return to the future. Everyone, I must now bid you farewell. Oh, so that was true. That's what bells sound like. It's ding dong. That's what normal doorbells sound like. That's not what a desk bell sounds like. I'm feeling the blues. There was so much I wanted to learn from you. Uxie, Mespert, Azelf. Yeah, you got the wrong time. Bring! I entrust you with the rest. Yep. We know, we got the time gears back, and we'll make sure they return to their rightful places. The task is yours. Wait, how do they put the time gears back? Maybe the time gear has its own time bubble that pushes back against the frozen time bubbles. Thank you very much for everything. You have literally saved us all. Oh no. You have been most kind and helpful. I hope you will continue to work to preserve the peace. Yes, you can depend on that. Now, I am afraid the time has come. Everyone, though it pains me, I hate saying goodbyes. I will see you again. Oh yes. Before I go, I must see two Pokemon, Clara and Draconayr. That's us. Let's go up there. This is really goodbye. Oh, he's gonna pull our out. You're coming with me. I love how they just drop kick him into it. They really did just like bitch slap him through the portal. Draconayr, sir, for everything you've done. Thank you, sincerely. Well, this is goodbye. Or is it? What? It's too soon for farewells. Oh shit, he really is grabbing us. You two are coming with me. Yeah, I literally quoted the fucking line before you said it. Dude, I can gaze into the future. Bitch actually just grabbed us. What the fuck? My gosh. Oh, and okay, well, fuck. What just happened? Wow. Okay. And the parks are free. I have 12. You can just take them. Into the future. Does anyone think it's weird that I just quoted him before it happened? I had a dimensional scream. It was really weird. Where is this? I was dragged? I can't. Losing consciousness again. Oh, this is the first time I'm like talking. You're a Charmander. I am a Charmander, yes. Thank you for pointing it out. Oh shit, the future sucks. Prediction. Wait, I'm not from the park though. You can't just grab me. I'm not free. I am sorry to have kept you waiting, Master Dialga. While I encountered more difficulty than anticipated, I finally succeeded in the capture, yes. Gore. I fully understand what must be done. Those who seek to alter the course of history must be removed from history. I will see to the elimination immediately. Brr. I understand. As you wish. I take my leave. Shit, he's a bad guy. Hey, Gunnar, wake up. Can we fucking time prison? What is this? Two bottom glowing ones were whiskers for the longest time. Where? You're awake. This place, I think it's jail. Jail? I just woke up a while ago, so I'm not sure what's going on. I tried the doors, but they're locked. Seems to be no other way out. I think we've been locked up. Ugh. What's going on? We're locked up? I don't know what's going on either, but I may as well investigate. Oh god. Future sucks. Okay. Prediction. I'm predicting. Duskwar knew about what would happen with the time gears because that is what happened in the future. And Grovile went back in time to grab the time gears to bring back to the future to restore time. That's my prediction. This part where the game gets really dark and creepy. Okay, well, let's keep going. This definitely reminds me of... So I've only played Super Mystery Dungeon and Mystery Dungeon DX Rescue Team. Rescue Team didn't really have like a climax area. It was kind of like you go to the tower where Rayquaza is now or whatever. There's a meteor coming and then you go save people. The entire OST is bangers at this section. We're gonna find out. I do like this track. This track fits the area and the situation that's happening. But in Super Mystery Dungeon, when you find, like, spoilers for Super Mystery Dungeon, mute the stream for about a minute. When you find yourself in, like, the dark world, and the dark goo is turning all the Pokemon to stone, and you're, like, running away from it while the legendary Pokemon are trying to stall for time for you, that shit was creepy. And I'm very excited to see where this goes. Because I'm used to that section. Anyways, Charmander's portrait looks like it has crossed arms. That reminds me of that one image of the guy with his arms crossed and feet out to the side with the view coming from below, making his shoe look massive. I can't say I'm familiar with this image that you're talking about. Long time ago, I literally remember none of that. It was like one section. I don't know how long this is going to be, obviously, but the climax of Super Mystery Dungeon was them in the dark world running away from the fucking goo that turned Pokemon to stone or whatever. That part was hard. That part was really hard because you at the end you fight one, like a boss. I don't remember who the boss was, but it kind of fucked shit up. Doors failed to open. No good. Clark said these doors won't open. Like you didn't believe him? The only thing I remember about Super is Elgium was in it, and the identity of the twist villain. I actually don't remember that part. I'm gonna have to play Super again at some point. I really like Super Mystery Dungeon. Climax isn't allowed. Oh no, sex-based terms. That's a sex-based term now. Context? Who cares? Original game in DX was when everyone casts you out from the town. That's like an hour and a half in, though. That's not even halfway through the game. Or it is halfway at most. There's still another half of the game where you're figuring out, like, what is Ninetales? Who's the human? Why am I here? Oh, there's a meteor. Like, like, I don't think the first game really had, like, a big climax. This game changed the tone incredibly with this, and Super took it further. I haven't played Gates to Infinity, so I don't know about that one. It sure looks like it sure does appear that way. Yeah, DM. It seems you've been locked up. Perception check 1. It looks like you've been locked up. Gates to Infinity just sucks. Well, we'll see. I might play it and then we'll see if it's bad or not. How did we end up this way? I think what happened was Draconayr grabbed us, then he dragged us into the dimensional hole. What? Wait, so is this the future? But that's... I can't believe this. I mean, this is the future. Why are we even here? But this whole room is constructed in a way unlike anything I've ever seen. Now that I've had time to digest this, maybe this is actually the future. You've said that 3 times. Chill. Dude, shut up. We're in the future. Get over it. Basically in shock. I guess so. I guess so. I feel like there are worse things to be in shock about. What do we do? If this place is the future, how are we supposed to get back to our world? Oh shit. Leave me alone, please. They're awake. How convenient. All right, we will do this quick. They're a hive mind now. All of them speak the same. They're a hive mind. Do this quick. Do what? Oh shit, dude, we got jumped. They blindfolded me. Oh no, dude. Come with us. Ow, don't shove me. This blindfold makes it impossible to tell where I'm going. Where are they taking us? We are here. Oh, I see. They tied us up. Wonderful. Where is this? They have me trussed up. Who uses that word anymore? I can't move. Why is this happening? Oh, hey, that's me. Glar! Am I glad to see you? You're okay, right? You're clueless about what's going to happen. I guess you can afford to be nonchalant about it. Huh? I always came from over there. There he is. What is trust? I think that just means tied up. Burn the rope with your tail. Honestly, though, how do you gonna tie up a fucking Charmander, dude? The game really is 15 years old. Dude, they're so trussed up. This is the story. My vernacular. Grovile. You two, do you have any inkling about where you are? No. This is a stockade. They're preparing to get rid of us for good. But you can't use logic in a video game. Well, there's no logic. I just think the verbiage is funny. Oh, you're talking about the fire on the rope. Maybe it's just reinforced rope, so it doesn't burn. Does that make me 15 years old? I've used that phrase about as much as I have tied up. Well, you're also from a different country, so that doesn't count. Now stockade. Well, I was familiar with stockade, so that's fine. What? Get rid of us? Wait a second. It's easy to understand why they'd want to get rid of you, but why us? We haven't done anything wrong. Oh, I couldn't care less. You must have done something they can't tolerate. What? We haven't done anything bad. Don't think that we're like you. I don't care. You're wasting your time losing your cool. Meanwhile, look, here they come. They really are just poles on the floor. Permission to the TTS dude. This might actually be future lingo. Depends on how far in the future it is. Who are they? The jailers who do all the dirty work around here. They also happen to be Dustnoir's underling. What? The Great Dustnoir? Oh, there he comes, pulling his invisible rope to come get you. Dustnoir when he gets you. Lord Dustnoir, the three have been tied to the stakes. Good. Dustnoir, sir, it's me. Very well, Sableye. Those three, we need to be rid of them. What? Pay them no heed. You may get ready. Wee. They suddenly have different voices, but only when they laugh. Wait a minute! What's wrong with you? Why are you doing this? Don't waste your breath. Instead, keep your voices down so they can't hear you. Keep my voice down? You two, if you want to get away, give me your full cooperation. What? Help you? There's no time to think. Or would you prefer to stick around for them? Hey, you there. Tell me, what can you do right now? I have a really strong flamethrower and like 70 special attack, if that's what you mean. Literal execution sing in my Pokemon game. Dude, it really is. They're trying to execute us right now. You asked me out of nowhere. I can Dimensional Scream? I can use a move. Move? That could work, but no, that's no good. We're trussed up, so we can't move. I literally have fire breath. I don't know what you want from me. It has to be something you can do instantaneously. It doesn't need to be flashy. Can't you do anything more basic? Just a normal attack is really... I can't use an item because I'm tied up. That's it. That'll do. If it's just a regular attack, I can help too. Good. Then we're ready to begin. Very well, but be vigilant to the end. Don't take your eyes off of them. Especially the Grovyle. I would slash the ropes, but I can't do it without doing scary face first. You gotta slow the ropes down so they can't get away. They lose a turn. I knew I shouldn't have fucking used my Link move so soon. Commence now. This is a roller coaster of emotions, by the way, because Dusknoir said, or the Magnemite said Dusknoir was going to leave, and I said that's sus. And then he said that he did want to say bye, and I was like, okay, never mind, he's cool. And then I went to the town and saw the portal, and I was immediately like, we're gonna get pulled into the portal, and that's just how it's gonna be. And then I directly quoted the motherfucker before he did it. And now he's actually the bad guy. They're coming. Listen carefully. Sableye uses claws to strike. Makes that sound scary. And that might just be... well, hold on. And that might just open one avenue for escape. Sableye's will unleash their Fury Swipes in a frenzy. That's our chance. Even if one of their attacks were to hit the ropes binding us. Oh, right! The ropes might come loose! Exactly. And if that happens, lash out an attack, then flee. But what if their Fury Swipes don't slash the ropes? And what if the Sableyes don't use Fury Swipes at all? If that happens, don't even think about it. Ah, we're dying! Endure it. Wait for your chance. But if they keep going, we'll be finished before our chance comes. Hey! Now, attack. Smash! Get fucked. What is this? Oh shit, he does a flashbang! Compose yourselves. It's only a luminous orb. Its effects wear off quickly. They're using Fury Swipes, but I'm not sure yet. Yeah, you don't think. As silly as that little conversation is, the execution is kind of fucked for the time, for sure, dude. Blast it. The Grovyle. He fled using the flash from the luminous orb as cover. They won't get away with this. Come. And their fancy gadgets. I think I have a luminous orb in the bank. Think fast, loser. Bam! Dude, they did the thing from Dune where they hide in the sand. Ugh, I got dirt in my mouth. We're safe. Growl can use dig. She knows many moves. In the future, they don't have the 4 move limit. My least favorite line in this game. What the fuck does it mean? No, it's the future. They haven't had 4 moves in a long time. They've grown out of it. Pokemon evolve. Got out of that scrape. We're not out of the woods yet. Let's get out of here and fast. Okay, if we start adventuring with Grovyle, good news. Having them be the same evolution tree is super cool because I have the Trico item. Bad news, very few, not a lot of type coverage. Dog, Pokemon have evolved since their inception though. Exactly. Thinking back, that line is stupid as fuck. He sure knows many moves. Come on, this way. We need to keep running until we hit the exit. Faster, pick it up. This is the fastest I can go. Quit ordering me around. Grovyle. What? Is this the future? That's right. You catch on fast. I don't know why you needed clarification, but okay. We know he knows dig and he knows thief. Hey. I'm sure the original line said something like, he knows a wide variety of moves as in coverage. Oh, that probably makes sense. That probably makes a lot of sense. Dig's like the best move. Well, every move is based off of dig, right? So, I mean, Solar Beam is just grass type dig. Fly is just flying type dig, you know? Quick Attack is just normal type dig, but it's the second part of normal type dig, you know? So, Dive is water type dig, exactly. So it is, after all. Are we gonna be able to get back to our world? Who knows? We just need to get away from now. If we get caught, returning home will be the least of your worries. Run faster. I can't! I'm exhausted! We're almost there. Look, the exit's right there. Earthquake is just reversed. No, Earthquake is just the second turn of dig. Dude, Smallland is like one of my favorite content creators right now. He's just so funny. We did it! We're outside. What? What is this? Oh shit, dude. This place kind of sucks. This is our world in the future? Those boulders are floating. And it's horribly dark. Not even the wind blows. It's as if all movement, as if everything stopped. Exactly. What? I hear the Sableye! We have to keep running. Listen, Grovyle, I'm exhausted. There's no time to rest. If they catch us, we're done. Toughen out and run. It's easy for you to say. I can't. I have to rest. All right. This forms a natural alcove. This should shield us from view. After a quick rest, we'll have to get moving again. Oh, wait a minute. When we escaped from the Stockade, we cooperated you because we had no other choice. We didn't promise we'd go with you afterward. Bad Pokemon like you, you're not worth trusting. So I'm the bad guy, and that Dusknoir is the good guy? How about explaining Dusknoir's actions earlier? It wasn't just me. They wanted you gone too. Isn't it weird that Trico walks on all fours and Grovyle just does a bunny hop? I mean, a little bit. Trico walking on all fours, I guess, isn't the most out of place thing. But Trico, or Grovyle running around like he's a bird, like a tree living bird that does the hoppies, is a little strange. Squints at Desolate Gray Apocalypse. Still better than Sunflora's, oh my gosh. Actually, though, I don't think it can get worse than that. Sunflora's special episode is probably the worst that this game will get in terms of, like, genuinely not fun. which is good. I'm glad that I don't think the game will get as bad as that. But that doesn't mean I should put my faith in you. Earning your trust isn't an easy task, it seems. I thought that having allies would help, but there's no point in continuing that together without trust. We'll go our separate ways. I'm staying on the move. You two should get moving as soon as possible. Good luck. Wait a second. There's only one of the sections that gives us a run for its money, but it's post-game. Okay, I'm okay with that then. Because that also means it's technically optional. Technically. The next special episode is Pokemon Charlie's Angels. It's gonna be some whiplash. We'll see, it will be fun. I'm expecting a Grovyle special episode. About how this happened. And I don't know what the last one's gonna be. Or maybe that is the last one and then we get one before it too. I don't know. You tell us to leave soon, but it's dark out now. It's hard to see where we're going. Instead of setting off again right away, shouldn't we wait for morning? Dude, time's frozen. What morning? There's no morning. Wouldn't it be better to leave when it gets light out? That isn't possible. I hate to say it, but morning never comes. What? This world, your future, it's a world of perpetual darkness. The sun never rises, so morning never comes. The darkness persists forever. Why? Because the planet has been paralyzed. The planet is paralyzed? That's right, I remember now. Dusknoir described the planet's paralysis. Describe the planet's paralysis. It's a tongue twister. Dusknoir described the planet's paralysis before. Oh, another flashback. At least this one was from several days ago, so it's fine. It was nothing less than causing the planet's paralysis. If the planet becomes paralyzed, all movement upon it ceases. When the time gear is removed, the flow of time slows. As many more are taken, time slows to an ever larger area. Eventually, the planet's flow slows down so much that it stops entirely. Ultimately, the planet reaches a state of total paralysis. In a world where the planet has become paralyzed... Oh, a flashback within a flashback! No wind blows. The day never comes. Neither spring nor summer ever comes. In a world of unrelenting darkness. It would be no exaggeration to call it the complete ruin of the world. Specifically for Explorer Team Sky, there's a special Grovyle episode, but talking about what happens there would be spoiled. Yeah. I remember someone saying that the special episodes were Sky exclusive, and Time and Darkness didn't have the special episodes. But I would be a little surprised if there wasn't a Grovyle special episode. This place resembles Dusknoir's description, but even then, it's hard to understand how the planet has become paralyzed in the future. You're free to believe or reject what I'm telling you. Either way, I suggest you leave here as soon as you can. I'm going. Don't let the Sableye catch you. Connor, I don't know what to think anymore. Wasn't the planet's paralysis supposed to be caused by all those time gears going missing? That's why we all tried to stop Grovyle. We did everything we were supposed to, right? Luxie and the others said they would return the recaptured time gears to the rightful places. That should have prevented the planet's paralysis, but despite our efforts, why is the planet still paralyzed? I don't know who or what to believe anymore. Ah, the Sableye! We can't stay here. Let's get ready. Quickly, so we can get moving. All right. I do think now we're going to start carrying some revive seeds. The gummies are going to have to go. Okay, 3 of those. Paralysis. More berries. Blast seed. I don't think that will be very useful, so I will store it. Heal seed will keep. Sleeps and stuns. Confusion is the best one. We'll take 1 more max elixir. We'll take 2 revive seeds, and then I think we're good. Yeah, I got 2 pages of reviver seeds, so I think we're chilling. Okay, let's catch up on chat. Outside the whole crops not growing stuff paralysis the planet doesn't sound so bad. Well, I mean, look at the map at the top. It's kind of all destroyed. I was never able to get a physical copy of Sky, so I don't know a lot about the changes Sky made to the original version. Sleep seeds are so OP. Yeah, sleep seeds and totter seeds are just so crazy good. Let's go. All set. So prediction part 2, Electric Boogaloo. Dustmore made a comment about how people were trying to change the past. I assume that's us, or more specifically me. And part of Dustnor's plan was probably making sure that all of the time gears were where they were supposed to be for whatever causes this to happen, so that it happens, because he didn't want the past to change, which means he wanted this to stay the same, which means he had to stop Grovyle from moving the time gears or stealing them or whatever he was going to do with them. Prediction 2. They never said the fracturing of the planet had anything to do with time stopping. I guess so. I guess that's true. So we don't know why everything is like broken. That's a Scar Marine. Perish. You two. Oh my god. Why did the Drifloon explode? Yo, the music here is bomb though. Aftermath. Am I gonna have to worry about that? They flexed so much that the combined earthquakes exploded the planet. That's okay. There's no one behind me, so it's fine. Okay, don't step on the trap, you idiot. Okay. A slow orb, that's actually really nice. Bruh, have a good one. Lucy, you better thank Aniv right now. Oh shit, hello. Perish. This guy's gonna fucking explode. Oh my god, that did a lot. Okay, it's fine. Where'd the Grumpig come from? Shit. Okay, that's actually good, because I can do that and he'll die. Sweet. Whew. It was sleeping on the stair. Of course it was sleeping. Not as bad as actual Aftermath. I'm gonna do some of this action. I didn't mean to step that way. It's fine. I didn't mean to normal attack. It's fine. Oh, 6 damage, whatever. Okay, full health. Let's get going. Chasm Cave. Oh, fuck. Dude, can you not step on the fucking Stop! Oh, God. Okay. Exclusively use flamethrower to kill Drifloon from a safe distance. Yeah, that's kind of what my new strategy is. Why do you keep missing? Okay. Okay, that should be good. Okay. Without grinding or any revive seeds or levels, and always got my shit kicked. Yeah, I'm probably higher level than normal because I did a lot of the dojo for I did a lot of the dojo early on. I don't remember why. I think it was because I thought there was items I'd get at the end besides just experience, and then I did it again later for so I could refresh the shop for flamethrower. Bumps into Grumpig. This is fine. Ow. Okay, I didn't flinch though, so it's fine. Onyx picked up gravel rocks. Onyx learned rock throw technically. Oh shit. Please die. Thank goodness. Oh, and we were out of range. Sick. I'm glad I brought the elixirs. This game is a lot easier than Adventure Team Red and Blue. Adventure Team DX was not very hard. Not until way later anyway. I think post game it got pretty rough. I can't hit behind him. You solar beam, fuck him up. There we go. Yeah, DX wasn't that bad. I never played the original. I don't know if I ever will. Because DX is honestly just probably a better experience. Please quick attack. Thank you. Fuck, Drifloon. Okay. I have to use an Oranberry, because if I don't, then I think if he dies, I die. I had a feeling. Oh, he didn't have Aftermath. What? Okay, sick. I was super worried I was about to fucking explode. I'm gonna need a Mega Elixir here in a second. I'll go down first. There we go. Dragon Claw. That's pretty good. I could use that instead of Fire Fang, but Fire Fang flinches and burns. So honestly, that's probably a better experience. Uh-oh. I gotta switch with you. Shit, I can't. At least he's not using Gust. I have to Oranberry right now. Shit. Damn it. No, just take me out. Fuck this dungeon. That's awesome. Oh shit. How many items did I lose? What did I lose? I lost an apple. Oh shit, I lost so much. I don't remember the last time I saved, but it was definitely before I did any dungeoning, so I can just skip. Like that was rough, dude. I'm just gonna restart. In the field. Okay, yeah. We're in the future. In time with how much they punish you. Dude, that's rough. That was more than half of my items. They destroyed me with that. And this done, like, having aftermath and, like, being confused. Like, if I was able to just switch with him, like, if I, like, the fact that I was confused and couldn't walk back to switch places, then it would have been fine. In the future, they talk much faster. This is actually all of our memories we're playing. Okay. The worst part is this is where I decided to use the revive seeds, and it still wasn't enough. Because of the fucking, like, the drift blim attacking twice per move and confusion, like, if you do that, I can also rescue you. You lose everything and it forces a save. But if you do that, you can rescue me. Maybe. I don't know how that works on my totally not emulated game because I own the game. We'll save now. But, real can rescue emulated and vice versa because it's a code it's a code generation. That's interesting. That's very interesting the way they do that. I guess I'm used to DX where it's, or the Super where it's networking. But it's a terrible experience. So don't do it and don't make me do it. Hello. You literally offered though. Now I feel like I have to. If next time I die, we're sending for rescue, and that'll be the part of the stream. That'll be part of the stream where you have to come save me. Save the streamer. It's not a good experience for streaming though because you just sit there doing nothing. No, I'll watch a let's play of someone doing a rescue, and it'll be like you're coming to rescue me. You know? That first run of this dungeon sucked ass, by the way. Just like this one is. I should have just fire fanged, but oh, thank God that was a ditto. Oh, that must be why the other one didn't attack, or why the other one didn't die. I'm going to getting my DS right now. Can you please... And I'm paralyzed. Can you please quick attack? For God's sake, dude. Clar, please use quick attack. And hit him. The solar beam is not necessary. You used... Bruh. Okay, whatever. I don't... It's fine. It's fine. Okay, our health is fine, so I can fire fang this guy. That's fine. He lived. Okay, it's only the surrounding 8 squares. You do the rescue like male chess. Riolu to E6. Is a princess that needs rescue. No, I won't need to. It's fine. If you're in a position where you really need him to use a specific attack, you can just take a moment to go into the menu and uncheck every attack except the one you want him to use. I hate that that's what you have to do. Just make the AI better. It put me in a fucking hole. What the shit? I don't have a warp seed. You're on your own, dude. Okay, it was just, you know, it's fine. God, that floor sucked ass. Thank God for super effective moves. All right. Yo, let's go. Huge. Only walk and don't attack until he reaches you mode. Maybe? I don't know what other good, like, settings there are. I think it's just let's go together, as opposed to going after... I don't know if any of these are necessarily, like, worth using, since I can't control them. It's so annoying to do that every time. See, here we go. Why couldn't this happen last time, dude? Like, my luck is incredible. But only most of the time. We're both gonna take a lot of damage, but I have to kill him. Sweet! He didn't explode. I saw the stairs. Hey, look! Could that be the exit? Let's go over there. Dude, this like white expanse is kind of spooky. Did we put some distance between us and the Sableye? Let's rest a little now. There's water. It's not running water. What? This waterfall. It's not flowing at all. The gushing water is totally suspended in space. Is Grovyle right? Has time really stopped in the future? Why did Dustmore bring us here? Great Dustmore, who was so kind to us. I don't know what to believe anymore. If only there was some way of finding the truth. Oh, I know! There's a way of getting at the truth. Huh? Your dimensional scream! Use your dimensional scream! Touch the frozen water! You might see something. Oh, I understand, that's true. It's worth a try. Touching the frozen water might give some clues about what's happening. We can't dawdle. The Sableye will catch up to us. Let's do this quickly. Hold on. Let's go together is a good tactic, but every once in a while you have to treat this as, well, basically a mixed strategy game and a regular Pokemon game where you have to walk your partner through the menu options on what to do. I mean, yeah, I did that a lot in Rescue Team, but being able to switch leaders in Rescue Team helped a lot. Not being able to switch to Grovyle is rough. So I'm not ever sure when to do what. Well, can you see anything? Not sensing anything. No, huh? That's disappointing. Would have been reassuring if we could begin to understand what's happening. We didn't learn anything at all. Spent a lot of time here. If we don't hurry, those Sableye will get to us. Let's get ready and go. I don't think I lost anything. We'll store some items. Yeah, not being able to change leaders is tough to manage stuff with. Are you ready? Yep, let's go. All right, section 2 of the chasm. Dark Hill. In the dungeon and other games. Yeah, you could switch in Super... I don't remember if I could do it in Super Mystery Dungeon. That was the first one I played, and I was still a little bit younger, so I was the stubborn one that was like, I'm only playing as myself ever. So I wasn't sure. I don't remember if you can switch the leaders in that one either. Ha, you flinched, idiot! Just hits different. It really does. Shit's intense, dude. Flinch. Cringe. I will make you cringe. So Another swords dance. That's nice. Oh no, Harden. That'll do so much against my flamethrower. Congratulations, you fool. Boom, 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 boom. Dude, they're ghosts. Everyone's dead. The future sucks dick. Get me out of here, dude. I could gaze into the future, but I didn't want to gaze this far. Bum, bum, ba-dum. Man, Clar needs better moves, dude. Is there a TM for Leaf Blade, do you think? That would be super useful. You're dead in the future. Good news, you still somehow found a way to annoy me. I don't know what that's a quote from, but it's funny. Ba, 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 I need to figure out how to fix that shit. Right. Oh, this is a huge room. I didn't realize how big this room was. Boo doo boo. There is an energy ball. Would be a good one if you spot it though. Interesting. Energy ball is very good. Honestly, at that point, I would replace... If I found Energy Ball, I'd probably replace Swords Dance, especially now that I have a second one. Because Swords Dance is worthless if it's just going to be using it for Quick Attack, because the Quick Attack is not doing damage. I wish I had a better way to sit without looking past my shit. Sorry, a better way to lounge, rather. The most real Aniv action I've ever seen. Wait, really? Slash is slash just worse wide slash? Like, is wide slash? I'm gonna forget. We can move. We can relearn later. Okay, so wide slash doesn't have the crit rating, I don't think, but the range on it's very nice. Having the several hitbox move is kind of my preference anyway. Didn't mean to do that, but it's fine. Why did that work? Slash is a normal move. Is Bandit not a ghost type? Knocked my shit off. Bitch. Ineffective type matches do damage. Oh, really? That's super nice. I think it's called very little. Swords Dance is kind of worthless, not gonna lie. I'll just go ahead and eat this one then. Full health. I love the waiting mechanic. Heal Seed, that's fine. Violent Seed. That's actually pretty nice. So if that is keepable, I will keep it. Swap the Hunger Seed for it. Oh no, a Dustclops. Dust Noir's baby brother. Wide slash is question mark type. I mean, as far as I'm aware, that move only exists in this game, so it could very well just be a made-up type move. I meant to turn. I let go too soon. I'm gonna have to elixir here in a minute. Ow. That's literally its type. Oh, it's like it's a typeless move. Oh, interesting. PMD exclusive. I've only seen it in this specific game. I've not seen it in Super or in Rescue Team DX. I've only seen Wide Slash in this version of the game. Why do I keep missing, dude? Why is my accuracy so shit? And Vacuum Cut are both PMD exclusive. Hunger Seed was one of those kind of broken seeds because if you hit an enemy with Pokemon with it, they can't move and their attack stat goes to the floor. Really? The Hunger Seed said it staves off hunger. That's what I read. Ha, you're burned. I forgot I have Blaze, so that did a ton of damage actually. How much damage is this gonna do? How many moves are you gonna get, dude? Stop fucking missing, dude. Jesus Christ. Finally, I hit more than once in a row. I'm already out of fucking... because of the pressure from the dust and clops. It's super annoying. Alright. Mixed up with the seed that induces hunger. I'm sure there's definitely a seed that induces hunger. Shadow Claw. I mean, I'll take it. Okay, I'm running away from those guys. Don't want to deal with that. Hello. How's it going? He cringed. I made him cringe. Huge. Please use quick attack. Nope. It's fine. I got it. Literally no point in you knowing Swords Dance if you're not gonna actually use the freaking move. He's on fire. This Gliscor's on fire. Want the money. There we go. 67? Dang. That's almost more than the guild gives me. Aha! I tricked him! And I got a stun seed. That's pretty nice. Hunger seeds make enemies bad. Really? Force him to use it. Well, I also didn't want him to use Swords Dance every time is the other thing. But now I'm regretting it because it's not... he's not fucking using it. Hunger Seed gives any non-leader Pokemon the Hungry status, which makes them unable to move, and I think also lowers their attack. Really? You're moving slower now. Never mind. You can't burn me, you fool. I don't think the solar beam is necessary, but I'll let you. I'll let you cook. Embargo. I don't think I care. Itemizer orb. Is that the one that turns Pokemon into an item? Can't learn it. Oh, he's out of Swords Dance. We're good. I don't think I want to learn it over what I have, so... I wonder if I might dip into Pokemon Mystery Dungeon ROM hacks and stuff. That'd be fun. I don't know if I care to throw anything else away. What's my item? What's my... Yeah, my hunger is not very low. Reduces the maximum belly size. If eaten by someone besides the team leader, the user also changes to Hungry Pal. It also slightly fills the Pokemon's belly. Okay, so that does say... Okay, so I'll keep that if it makes Pokemon worthless. Power Band. I don't think I particularly care about that. Ignoring that guy. Dude, those guys are dancing over there. Hey, we did it. All right, moving on. You've been climbing for a long time now. Wow, look at that. All current Pokemon? That'd be cool. I mean, they certainly aren't making their fucking games themselves. It was true. The future really is a world of darkness. That cluster of lights, it's beautiful, but those lights, isn't that the stockade? Hey, the great Dusknoir saved us more than once. He taught us many things, too. That's why I came to really respect him. But was Dusknoir deceiving us? Even after all this? I still can't believe it. I don't know what to believe anymore. I'm feeling all jumbled up. What should we do now? How far do we have to run? How do we go back to our own world? Everyone of the guild, I wonder how they're doing. Are they worried about us? Wigglytuff, Chatot, Bidoof, and everyone else. I wonder if they're doing well. Well, they're probably dead now. I miss the guild. I want to see everyone. I was feeling pretty down. It's only natural. It's happened so far, it's all hard to believe. I'm scared too. But I can't give up now. If we don't keep going, the Sableye will catch us. Gotta do something to cheer up Clar. Words of support will seem like false comfort right now. If there was something I could say, something that offers a glimmer of hope. If only there was some hope we could work toward. Be anything. I just need to think of something. Let's find Grovyle. What? You want to go after Grovyle? I wanna ask him something. He got to the pass before. Maybe he can do it again. Ask him something. Oh, I see. Grovyle went to our world from here the first time, so Grovyle should know how to travel to our world. But isn't Grovyle a bad Pokemon? Didn't he come to our world to steal the Time Gears? How could I trust anything he would say? What about you? I mean... I think there's some stuff we don't know. So... Well, I can't trust him. A Pokemon like that, never. There's no way I can trust him. There's no way. But I understand. I don't know why, but Dusknoir wants to get rid of us. That means the only other Pokemon we know here in the future is only Grovyle. We don't have a choice. We must pin our hopes on Grovyle. That's a good point. He's like, I can't trust him, but you're right. There's no other options. Like, it's very interesting. True, yeah. In a lot of the other games, they just kind of like go with you for all of it. Well then, okay. Let's track down Grovile. Let's meet with Grovile and ask him how to return to our world. Clar, ah! Let's go. Draconayr, thank you. You tried to pick me up because I was feeling down, even though you should be just as scared as I am. I'm sorry. Even though I have my closest and most precious friend with me, I'm worried all alone. And almost gave up alone. When in fact, I'm not alone. Lots of alone. It's starting to not sound like a word anymore. I won't give up anymore. Because you're by my side, I can be brave. I'm going to be fine now. So let's keep going. Let's get back to our world together. One of the reasons that this is probably the best spin-off game ever made. I mean, I don't disagree. There's a lot of really bad, shitty spin-off games of other IPs. I still want to play Chocobo Mystery Dungeon. I want to play Chocobo really bad. Since Grovile left, it's been one straight shot without any branching paths. So Grovile should be ahead of us on the same path. Let's go. Let's catch up to him. Okay, let's store... Oh, I want to interact with it. There we go. Wait, I can't take anything? Oh, because I'm full. Get rid of those. I have all my Reviver seeds still. I don't think I need more than 3 Oranberries. I don't need more than 3 apples. The Sleep and Stun seeds I'm keeping. I will need to grab 2 of the Max Elixirs. Let's get rid of 1 Drought Orb. I wish I had more Max Elixirs. I'll grab only 1. Shit, dude, I wish I had more. Fuck. I was looking for those for a long time, too. Is Clar male or female? Good question. I think my partner is a dude. He is male. I don't know your hey, I don't know your gender. Cool, a repro cart. Maybe somewhere in that much he can give you any. Totally not about. Okay, let's go. Done with that floor. this floor? Nah. Ooh, a Tangela. Die. Hey, we're almost breaking 200s. I think the only time I broke 200 damage was Clar against Groudon with Sunny Day and the Solar Beam crush. Stop picking up items, you're stalling. Did you find the Solar Beam? I did, very early on. Clar's had Solar Beam since the expedition to Fogbound Lake. Warp Seed, that's actually very nice. Really? Oh, hello. I didn't even see you there. Fuck. That poor Groudon. We honestly... because Groudon makes it Sunny Day, I think we killed him in like 2 turns. Trico destroyed his ass. It was fucking awesome, dude. I mean, I have the VOD still. You can probably go back and see it. I don't remember which session that was, though. Which reminds me, I need to download the rest of the VODs. This might be my first playthrough I post on my VOD channel on YouTube. Because I'm not having any issues with any of the sounds or music or anything. So none of my VODs are getting muted. Um. Uh-oh. I don't like you. Please perish. Help! Right. Finally actually used a move. Trying to preserve my flamethrower as much as possible. Hey, the stairs, huge. Wish I had that happen to me. Like I said, dude, the first half of this game, I got so lucky. Insanely lucky. I was basically incredibly lucky until the Sunflora shit. Decoy orb, hunger seed. Okay, what do I switch here? We'll swap that. And that's fine, I think. Hearing about that Sunflora stuff, what did she do to you? That special episode, I just got fucked on. I got totally fucked in the dungeon on that special episode so bad. It was probably the worst that this game will get. Because the whole point of that special episode is, like, grass type fighting against a bunch of fire types and shit. It was just super unlucky. Must have been close to the bottom. We have to catch up to Gorval soon. Let's keep it up. All right. The last... Oh, cutscene. I've gone quite deep. There's not much further now. That sounds real dirty. If I get through here, I should be at the forest. The Sableye are coming. There's no time to waste. That reminds me. I wonder how those two are doing. Have they eluded the Sableye? Forget it. This isn't the time. I have to give priority to my own mission no matter what. I vowed to complete it even if it means making sacrifices. Time to go. Hmm? Who's there? I don't know what voice to give this guy. Who's there? Who are you? Where are you? Quit hiding and reveal yourself. Spiritomb, okay. There's no mercy for those who transgress against us. It's just like stereotypical fucking ghost. Gah! Alright, so Spiritomb stole their fucking soul. I'll come up with a better voice for him. Who's gotten these Spiritomb voice suggestions? We've already done Skeletor, so that's not an option. He lost the duel, so he lost his soul. I'm so glad a lot of these guys are steel type and I can just like crush them. Oh, Oranberry, I don't need it. What's this? Steel Wing. That's okay, I guess. I feel like Spiritomb's a Mickey Mouse kind of guy. I am not sure about that. I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that one. Spirit Mouse, no, dude, I ain't doing that. Please die. Okay. No, I can't get it. It's okay. Well, now we don't have to worry about item storage, so it's fine. He cringed! Cringe, idiot! Get me on VC and I'll do the voice. I don't know if I'm gonna do that. What the fuck? Fuck off. Are you fucking kidding me? Okay, well, okay, it's fine. Disable. I mean, it's freaking annoying. I'll tell you that. I don't think Blast Seed helps me anymore. Blast Seed does 100 damage flat, right? I feel like at this point it's 30. Blast Seed is 30? There's no way. That's garbage. That's literally trash. Get the fuck out of my inventory. 30? That's worse than fucking Dragon Rage. What the fuck? That's awful. No reason to use that. Finally, some good fucking food. Trying to go and eat it. You're hurting the Blast Seed's feelings. I don't know if that's will have ever been useful. Blast Seed in Rescue Team DX was awesome. 100 damage flat, sick, worth it, totally worth it for like the first half of the game. But in this one, if it's only 30, that I don't know if that's ever been worth it. I got like a lot of orbs in my inventory specifically for monster houses, and I have not run into a single monster house since the Sunflora shit. Oh no, there he is. Hey, there's Grovile. You two. Grovile, are you alright? Stay back. What? Why? Be careful. An enemy lurks nearby. What? Where? It's right beside you. It can't be this. I feel like I have too many deep voices. Hey, MJ, is that you? I can do like a little jester voice. All those who trespass upon this land, none shall be forgiven. None. Not least of all you. Who's that? Who are you? You ask that of us. Our name is Spiritomb. We are the manifestation of a fusion of spirits. Kefka voice? I don't know what Kefka sounds like. I don't know what Kefka would sound like. 108 of them. Be careful, you two. That Pokemon is strong. Hehehe. Prepare to take your punishment. Yeah. It doesn't really matter. I assume that we'll beat him here and he'll disappear forever. Would sound like Mickey. Shut the fuck up. I assume it's gonna be super easy because I'm gonna do this shit. Confusion. And then we're gonna do this. Hey, Clark, you can only use one move now. Oh, I can't use orbs. Oh shit, never mind. That's fine. Okay, I used a little bit too many items, but it's fine. I got him. Only for a bit, but I hope you enjoyed the great betrayal. There was a roller coaster of emotions when that happened, because I was at the guild, and they said Dust Noir was gonna leave, and I said that's sus, and then he said, but he's gonna say goodbye first, and I went, okay, that's less sus, and then I saw the portal and went, that's sus again. And then I quoted him before he said anything. When he pulled us in, it was really wild. Hello, welcome, YouTube chat. I don't have you appearing on the bottom, but it's fine. Yeah, that went out very well. I just confused him the whole time. Confusion in this game is broken. I'm not gonna lie. Because he has an ominous wind, which is room wide and hits even if he's confused, and can get an om boost from it. Also, some others I forgot to make it hard. Can't wait to see your reaction. Yeah. Okay, so I guess I just got lucky that he didn't use the other move. This is kind of what happened. And then he explodes, and then I never see him again because the voice is stupid. I don't have to do the voice. What's happening? Bye. Eep. Eep. Run away. Now he sounds like Demix. Dance, water, dance. Yeah, sometimes it's really dumb. Never use Ominous Wind. I mean, it's fine. To be honest, I probably should have just put him to sleep if I was going for the Solar Beam move. As soon as he charged the first turn, then I was like, oh, he's gonna move, and then the Solar Beam's gonna miss. What was that? What was that all about? They got spooked and ran. Grovyle! Are you alright? Yeah, I'll be fine. Can you get up? Somehow. Well, that was fast. I'm good. That Pokemon, it was cunning. It went up my nose and took control of my bot. Whoa! That was kind of weird. Glad I no longer have to hide that Grovyle is best boy. I mean, even when he was a bad guy, he was still kind of endearing. Whoa! So that was a bad Pokemon. No, that's not true. That Spiritomb was probably upset over us trespassing in its space. It was frightening, because it became so angry that it lost control of itself. But you saw what happened when the situation turned sour. It fled. It's normally a timid Pokemon. There are many such Pokemon here in your future. There are Pokemon who should be good, but they became bitter and twisted because of the world's perpetual darkness. I see. Good Pokemon going bad because of this world. That makes me sad. Hey, you two. Now will you finally trust me? Somewhat. I'll admit it, I don't really trust you, but I told you before. There's no point in continuing together if there's no trust between us. I'm leaving. Wait! I didn't say I don't believe you. You gotta pop off? Dude, he's popping off! Alright, well, come back soon. To be perfectly honest, we don't know what's anything anymore. I didn't read it all the way before advancing. That's why we can't know as much as we can learn. And it's true, I still don't completely trust you, but what you said does make sense. It just seems to be logical. So please tell us what you know. Tell us about this future and why you came to our world. What's up? Man, it's popping tonight. We got all the boys on both sides. How's everyone doing? Your gullible fucking partner literally just trusts Dusknoir from the get-go after meeting his ass one time. In his defense, as soon as Dusknoir appears, it's preceded by the entire guild going like, the great Dusknoir, master of exploration, come in here. Like, he's kind of played up a lot. So I don't disagree. What if everything I say is a pack of lies? It's alright. I won't accept everything you say at face value right away. I'll listen, then decide. Well, how can you not try? I guess that's true. They call him the Great Dusknoir every time, so. Has so much evidence that Grovyle is not the bad guy, and is constantly like, I don't know, you seem sus. I'm saying at the time it made sense, and I guess now he's being weird about it. But it's fine. I guess we still don't know what Grovyle was trying to do, and that's why my partner's having issues, because it's like he saved us, that's true. From Dusknoir, that's true. Who is apparently a bad guy, that's true. But he still went back in time, and at the moment, we believe stealing the time gears, which would result in our planet being petrified. So You'll understand why this annoys me in due time. I assume once we figure out why. I'm smarter than the stupid partner, though, but I'm also a 25-year-old man. So maybe I'm just too smart for this game. Maybe I should have played this game 10 years ago when I was still a child. There's no reason to believe Grovile is good here, only that Dustmar is also bad. Yeah, I guess that's kind of like this. I think that's where they're trying to put your partner in this situation. Well, fine. Follow me. They are not alien. They could be wrong. Thank you, Aniv, for once again a great bot reply. Chapter 15: The Secrets of the Planet's Paralysis. 10 years ago, this game would be 5 years old. You'd be all dressed up in this game. Dude, 10 years ago, what was I doing 10 years ago? I think I was in high school. Was I a sophomore? I graduated in 2016, so I was a sophomore. I believe. Ending my sophomore year, I think. Anyways, good. This will do. Well, Sableye won't be able to spot us easily here. Tell us, in the future, why did the planet's paralysis take place? The cause of the planet's paralysis that dated back to your time in the world of the past. The planet's paralysis started with the collapse of the temporal tower, which was governed by a Dialga. Dialga? Who's that? He's the legendary Pokemon that controls time. Dialga ensured the proper flow of time from temporal tower. But when temporal tower collapsed, time gradually got out of control, and eventually the planet fell into paralysis. What? What happened to Dialga? When time went out of whack, Dialga also lost control. Now, here in your future, the planet has become fully paralyzed, and thus Dialga has lost almost all his reason, and is governed by darkness. Gotta go, maybe back before you're done. Have fun. Okay, thanks, bye. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you. Hugs and kisses. Dialga is now beyond recognition. He has become an entirely different entity. Yes, he's been transformed into Primal Dialga, a primordial presence. Okay. Primal Dialga feels no emotion. He seeks only self-preservation, so he prevents history from changing. That's why Dialga wants me gone. Because I tried to change history. Because I tried to stop the planet's paralysis. Because I traveled back in time to your world from this place, your future. What? You're saying that you came back to our world so you could prevent the planet's paralysis? But that's completely the opposite of what we were told. You came back to our world to paralyze the planet, didn't you? And weren't you the one stealing the time gears? PMD had primal Pokemon before Scarlet and Violet. What do you mean? Oh, you're talking about the Scarlet Pokemon. The primal legendaries were Alpha Sapphire and Ruby, Alpha Ruby, Omega Sapphire. And they also did Team Skull first. It's true. It's true. You've got to be joking. I was collecting time gears because they were needed for preventing the planet's paralysis. I needed to take them to Temporal Tower to put them in place. That would have reversed the collapse of Temporal Tower, which was fully underway in your time. While it was true that removing a time gear from a specific place causes time to stop in that area, that's only temporary. After the time gears are put in Temporal Tower, time would have been fully restored to normal everywhere. I guess. Sun and Moon's Team Skull was better, though. Disagree. Disagree. But then, what about all the things Dustmar said about you? Like how he said you were in the wanted outlaw in the future, and how you escaped from the future and fled to our world in the past. I want Team Rocket back, true. But you can't beat hip-hop head losers. I like that your reason that they're better is that they're worse. And you know what? I respect the shit out of that. Hey, drink water. There's a lot of voice acting in this episode. Yeah. Up. Start doing vocal exercises before my streams. So you're claiming all that was a bunch of lies? What else could it be? Dustmar really is an agent sent from the future by Primal Dialga to get rid of me. What? Dustmar was an agent sent to rid of you? That's right. I said that Primal Dialga will try to thwart any attempt to alter the course of history. That's why, when he learned that I traveled through time, he sent Dusknoir after me. Are you drinking out of your very well-made... No, I'm drinking out of a normal-ass hydro... thermo flask. Not sponsored. There's also a dragon on it. Look at him. Beans! Beans! Alright. The goods! The great Dusknoir. It can't be. It's hard for you to believe, I know. I can't believe it at all. You're saying all this about the great Dusknoir. I don't understand why Dusknoir is acting this way here, but I respected him. I can't believe you. It's hard to accept, but looking back over what we've been through in this future world, Grovyle said is reasonable. Makes perfect sense. Clar knows it. Deep down, what Grovyle says is true. Knowing that makes it much harder to accept. Hey, where are you going? I'm going to see Dusknoir. Whoa, bad idea. Dragons can't have beans. No, so this is my buddy Maoshi, Mao, buddy Mao, and he's a Kirin, which is like a type of dragon, but he's got beans and a tail, and he's got like little hornsies and ears. He's very cute and little whiskers. Bean, he's a total bean. Mao's great. I want to see Dusknoir. I'm going to find out if what you said is true or not. Furred dragons can have beans. He's a furred dragon. What's the point of that? You'll only be making it easy for them to get rid of you. You don't stand a chance against them. And then what am I supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? Didn't you wonder this earlier, and you decided that you would decide for yourself? You insisted that because you don't know what to believe, you wouldn't accept words at their face value, and you'd think for yourself. It's times like this when things are tough, that you have to be strong. Think for yourself, then act as you deem right. Grovyle, what are you gonna do now? I'm going back to the past again to stop this planet's paralysis. To do that, I need to find Celebi. Celebi? That's right. You can come with me or not, it's your choice. You two decide on your own course of action. I'm off. Yo, I mean, that makes sense. Not the the dragon, me, doesn't have beans, so it's fine. I don't know what I should believe either. But there's one thing I can say with certainty. In this future world of darkness, the planet's paralyzed. And the paralysis of the planet happened back in our world. That's why to stop that from happening, we have to get back to the past. We have to get back to our world. Draconayr. Yeah, I know. What Grovyle said is right. Things are tough now. That's why we have to be strong. I'm alright now. Let's go. Let's catch up. Draconayr. We have to get back. Back to our own world. Cool. Celebi and Grovyle. Are they a power couple? Celebi is great. Oh god, I'm gonna have to come with a voice for Celebi. There's too many characters in this fucking game. Tiger Bomb. Dude, that's a wild brand name, actually. Grrr. Hold on, I can't like growl. That's what he sounds like now. Master Dialga, the stage has been set for the capture of the traitors. When the time comes, it will be necessary for us to beg your help, Master Dialga. He growls. That's his. This game has all the Pokemon up till yeah. This is 4th gen, I believe. Celebi reminds me of Mini. Stop! You're going to jail. Jail. As you wish. By your leave, we shall proceed. Stop that. Oh my god. What? What was that? Strange sensation. I've had that before. I've felt that before. Where are we? This is Dusk Forest. Its name comes from the dark fog that perpetually shrouds it. Deep in this forest, we find Celebi.
Hello, I am Celebi, And I am a kobold now, yippee yip.
I don't know why. But the kobold saying hello. So that was the most polite hello I've ever heard. I don't know. He was so polite about it. He was like, hello. It was so fucking that was too deep. That's what Celebi sounds like now. Celebi's a chain smoker. I'm not afraid of going back to jail. Back to jail? You've been to jail before? Kobolds do be very polite. Well, true, but that one, like, the hello on that text-to-speech was, like, just incredibly polite. It was funny. Technically. You've technically been to jail before. Okay, that's fine. Hey, Grovile, you mentioned the name before, but who's Celebi? Celebi is legendary Pokemon. Oh, okay. The legendary Pokemon time travel. Celebi's the legendary time travel Pokemon. She has the ability to cross time, but, well, she's a little odd. But anyway, Celebi's ability enabled me to go to the past. Oh no, is Celebi gonna be a Cali girl? Is Celebi the Cali girl? I think that might be it, guys. I think that. So if we find Celebi, can we return to our world? Yes, you can go back, but Celebi's the Pokemon that sent me to the past. That means Celebi has lent her support to reshaping history. Wait, are you saying that Celebi's in trouble too? That's right. Primal Dialga is also targeting Celebi. So there's no time to waste. Get ready soon, we have to find her. I have also technically been to jail. It was a class tour for my major. Oh, that's interesting, actually. Can she canonically travel through time? What does the Poketext actually say? Yeah, Celebi's the time travel Pokemon. That's always been a thing. Have you not seen the movies? Celebi, that was a big part of one of the movies, was Celebi traveling through time. I think Ash went back and met young Master Oak. Young Professor Oak. Master Oak, please share your wisdom unto me. The fucking referring to him like a fucking like young master, like he's about to become the head of the family. Informational in my visit. I got taken for getting in a bit of a scuffle. Oh, that barely counts. Told you the Pokedex entry for Celebi. It's cool. I mean, it's pretty cool. Time travel is pretty cool. I can't use orbs in boss fights, so I'll only save. Honestly, a lot of these orbs in this game feel kind of worthless. Last time I watched anything Pokemon was 15 years ago. I went through a lot of different Pokemon phases. Okay, I'm ready. I'm gonna save. I didn't save. Escape orb, best orb. I don't know about that. I mean, it's useful for sure, but honestly, I should have used it earlier instead of having to reset, but the button I hit when I see a monster house. Well, that's what all the other orbs are for. Seeds are single target orbs. Well, seeds you can use in boss fights. You can't use orbs in boss fights. So the only other thing that orbs to me are useful for are monster houses, which I have not come across at all in this game, in the base game. I have not seen a single monster house in this game yet. Only in the Sunflora thing did I get bombarded with monster houses. You seem to be finally prepared. Let's go then. We'll find Celebi and return to the past. Let's go. Wait, don't go. What is it? If the three of us return to our world, will you steal the time gears like you did before? Well, yeah. Become the best streamer. Be the next Ludwig. Dude, if I could be the next Ludwig, honestly, I fucking would. In hindsight, it would be like so I always think back to the streamathon he did, where he streamed for like a month straight because people wouldn't let him go. And being able to do that and have it be my living, that would be sick. That'd be so fucking cool. In hindsight, it would be like, man, that was a bad idea. I should have not done that. Just because it would be so taxing. But I strive. If I can make that happen, I fucking would, dude. Right now, I gotta build up, you know? Yes, I will. Otherwise, the planet's paralysis can't be stopped. But Grovile, I'm not convinced yet. I don't completely trust you. I'm only cooperating with you because I want to return to our world. If we do return, I'll investigate if you really were stealing those time gears to prevent the planet's paralysis. If I decide that you're wrong for stealing the time gears, I'm gonna stop you. Do as you will, but keep this in mind. What's important now is getting ourselves safely back to your world. So for the time being, focus on getting home. Let's go. Sorry, I missed a bunch of stuff Lucy said. Caesar Singlor, yeah. What does that say about Sunflora? That says that Sunflora is a bitch. I hate Sunflora so much. That she likes a lot of Pokemon as company. Yeah, sure. If I could be a famous e-boy online, I totally would. Dude, be a famous e-boy. Do it. I feel it. I'm sensing something strange. What's the matter? I know it. I felt something like this before. That's it. Oh. That's probably okay. It takes so much effort to make. I know, right? That's why if I became the next Ludwig, I would be able to pay other people to do that. You know? And that would be other people's job. That's why I can't edit videos because I have a 9-to-5 and I just don't have the energy to edit videos and also stream and have a 9-to-5 full-time job. The info, lol. But if I could pay someone to edit videos, that'd be great. And then for now, I can at least start finally uploading videos to my VOD channel. And I think I like this playthrough enough to do that with, finally. So we're gonna do that soon. What's wrong? What's this weird sensation? Why am I feeling this way? I know this place. I thought so. This is similar to the sensation I had back then. Hey, what are you doing? Hurry. We gotta hurry. I feel like a lot of the dialogue in this game is repeating each other and themselves a lot. Which when you're reading it out loud is very weird. What the fuck? Dude, what a banger. This one came out of, this one kind of came out of nowhere. This one was a silent banger. Very like mystical forest. Ow! Rude. Bite the shit out of you. Let's not forget level 45 Grove. Is he level 45? Jesus! That no wonder he beat my ass. I may have beat his ass on the ground, but he definitely beat my ass in the cutscene for good reason. He doesn't seem all that much stronger than me. I guess maybe that's just because I'm type advantage to everything here. I'm gonna flamethrower. I'm cringing! No! The Ms. Magius made me cringe. Level 30, let's go, dude. Hold on a second. 5% of his power. Yeah, he's holding back. He's team. What am I looking at? I forgot what I was looking at. Dude, my special attack is so high. It's higher than every other stat. Clara, definitely a lot more well-rounded. But all right, definitely a lot more well-rounded. But I have so much special attack. It's not even funny. I didn't need the flamethrower. I wanted the fire fang, but level 30, huge. Good. I leveled up. You killed me. Good. Okay. That might be my favorite quote from a video game. The char line is very heavy in the special attack. True. But it's still like incredibly abnormally high as opposed to like spect for it high. So much XP from these enemies too. No wonder I'm doing over 100 damage to just like normal Pokemon. Where are the stairs, please? There they are. Perish. I mean, even my physical attacks aren't doing that much less damage. So at least there's that. And with the chance of burning and cringing. Does the burn status in this game also lower attack, or is that not the same in this game? Does anyone know? Oh shit. Perish. Oh, when he dropped a box? Most rules of VOD, pretty sure it does. Okay. So then burning enemies is always nice for several reasons. Where the fuck is this staircase? Jesus. What a maze to get to. Oh, it's suddenly dark on this floor. Oh my Gabite. Hello. Oh, he burned. Get wrecked, loser. Oh shit. It's okay. It was just a dragon rage, so it's fine. Hey, how about you stop that? I was gonna let you live, by the way, before you so rudely attacked me. Is this where Celebi is supposed to be? That's right. It was around here where I met her last time. But if Primal Dialga knows of this place, Celebi will have fled from here. This place isn't known to our pursuers, however, then Celebi should still be here. Hello, Celebi? It's me, Grovyle. Reveal yourself, if you're here. She's not coming out. Did you get frightened off by Primal Dialga? What if she's been captured? Captured? Where'd that voice come from? Stab is really good. True. But now I don't hear anything. That voice, was I just hearing things? Teehee, you didn't imagine it. Me? Captured? How insulting. Captured? Impossible, that's for sure. Switching out that Fire Fang for Dragon Claw would be a good idea. It's better coverage. I don't know. Fang, Burn, and Flinch is just incredibly good. Across the board, basically. It's been too long, my dear Grovyle. She said my dear Grovyle, and now the Callie girl voice maybe doesn't seem to fit. I didn't read that line. Whoops. What? This tiny thing is Celebi? Now that is downright rude. How inappropriate to poke fun at my petite proportions. That's such a weird way to put it. You literally didn't process she's a shiny. Oh fuck, you're right. Shit, dude. I didn't even notice. Damn. The future is wild. I have a question. Is Celebi shiny in Explorers of Time and Darkness? Is she shiny? I didn't even realize. I was too distracted by other shit. She is shiny. Okay, so she's just always shiny. It would have been cool if she wasn't shiny in the other ones. I heard you have the ability to cross time, so I expected you to be some awe-inspiring Pokemon. Dude, stop, boy, stop. Your foot, mouth, stop. You gotta stop, dude. How uncouth. Never judge someone by appearance. But I forgive you. After all, you must find me cuter and more special than you imagined. Okay. Yeah, quit while you're ahead. I am ahead. Quit while you are. First time I saw Celebi, this is the default Celebi for me. Green Celebi. Really? That's interesting. That's actually super interesting. I'd never even thought that someone would see this game first and say, oh, Celebi's pink. Why is the other one's green? That's kind of funny. Yes, Celebi. I need your help again. I know. Seeing you back here, my dear Grovyle, tells me everything I need to know. You're back because you failed in your mission in the past, yes? Ugh. Yes, it's true. Canonically, Grovyle and Celebi are together. Dude, they totally... I ship them. You go to the dungeon for some bonus dialogue. Sure. I wouldn't say canonically. I hope you manage this time. I've quite had enough of this. Living in this dark and dreary world is so depressing. Sorry, no time to chat. Sableye are tracking us. If we don't leave soon, we'll have brought trouble to you. It's quite fun. There's no need to be worried. Let the Sableye come. They're of no concern to me. Besides, if you'd be so kind as to prevent the planet's paralysis, we'll finally be spared the agony of this world of darkness. My dear Grovyle, I will devote my whole life to achieve that end. All right. Where's the passage of time? It's ready. It's nearby. The passage of time is on a plateau above this forest. That's good. Can you guide us? Yes. Are all three of you taking the passage of time? Yeah, that's right. Oh, what's this? Your friend. What? You're trying to pitch Celebi Grovyle to someone who owns plushes of them and a keychain drum of them. I shipped them already. I shipped them before it was cool. Anyways, I guess Grovyle's my best friend. What? I'm glad that my game self has a good reaction finally. No, that can't be. Something the matter, Celebi? No, it's nothing. Excuse you? No, that's... Tell us, please. You bitch. Well then, shall we? Off to the passage of time. How dare you? She knows, chat. She doesn't know. Chat, she knows. Hey, Grovyle. So, what's the passage of time? Passage of time is a portal that Celebi uses to travel through time. It's a secret corridor that spans dimensions. For short trips, I can travel through time all by myself. But for big trips that span many generations, I must use the passage of time. Oh, so if we were to go through the passage of time... Yes, you will be able to return to your time. Oh, I see it. She knows. She knows, chat. There's the entrance that leads up to the plateau. The passage of time is way up there. Good. We'll leave as soon as we're ready. As in, oh, that person you're with. Oh, whatever. You can't fool me. She knows who I am. Your friend, the person that you went back in time with, but they turned into a Pokemon and they weren't always a Pokemon, I guess. And now the theory is falling apart, but she knows me. Coincidence? No, it's totally a coincidence. The inflection is only ever so slightly different. I want to save. This might be... We're coming up on the end of the stream here. Hi. So listen, this is just a little secret. Did you know that Grovile is really impatient and hasty? I know that he wants to hurry, but I do wish he'd slow down a little. It would sure make me happier if he did. I want to spend as much time as I can with him. Oh, they're totally together! Uh-oh, that's not how I meant it, not at all. I don't have any special feelings for him or anything. Dude, I ship them. I ship the fuck out of them. You go, girl. Get him. Good, we're leaving. Spill the tea! Let's fucking go! Tsundere, dude, for sure. We must make our way to the passage of time. Let's go. Deep Dusk Forest. Wait, is Celebi on my team too? What, yo? Celebi's on my team. Huge. Fucking squad up, my guys. Oh, look, a Steelix running away. Such, yeah, I have a girlfriend. A girlfriend vibes. Actually, though. Don't mind me, I'm just gonna one-shot everything. Grovile being hasty, doesn't that mean... Yeah, please stop while you're ahead, my guy. You got hasty on the personality quiz. I might want to have done special defense. Why are you solar beaming? That's okay. I'll take care of him instead. You can finish the other guy off. Leafeon, I'm glad you love Leafeon, because that means you felt bad while you watched me beat the shit out of him. And I didn't. Great type variety. Yeah, lots of grass. There's lots of grass going on. Celebi Psychic. Look, I just really like plants, you know? Plants are spectacular. We love plants. Oh, I can't keep going further. Sweet, that worked out. Fire plant psychic. The joke writes itself. Grovile does no dig. He knows many what was the quote? I forget what the quote was. He knows many moves or whatever. Yes, please tell the joke is weed. I love how bluntly that was. Please tell me the joke. The joke is weed. That's the joke. Oh my god. So I should have known. You should have known. I wanted the XP. Hi, Steelix. Die, Steelix. Not knowing me that 10 times funnier. The delivery of the joke was top notch. Top notch salty. Fucking loved it. Focus Blast, which is not the same as... What's the grass type move we want? Energy Ball, right? Photosynthesis. Not quite. That's not quite what I'm looking for here. What is this Michael Jackson emote that he's doing? Aniv, please, chill. Leech Seed. I don't know. Is Leech Seed good in this game? Sandstorm? Get the fuck out of here. Fuck is this shit, dude? Why did the sandstorm not go away? So even the weather orbs are worthless, I guess. That's a tier 1 sub emote, which dries up water on the floor. Not changes the... Then what's the sunny day orb? Is it called like a sunny orb? I've had that drought orb in my fucking inventory for the whole game, being misled about what it does? Damn it! Do I have a sunny orb? Fuck me, dude. God damn it. Celebi, help! Celebi, you're not very strong. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Please die. Okay. Ooh. Rock Blast is scary. Truly a Draco. It's not my fault. There are too many fucking orbs in this game. Y'all switch with me. That's annoying that they moved. Oh my god. Am I still slowed? What's going on? You don't have any money. Multi-hit move? Yeah, that scared me. They absorb sounds, doesn't include. Double Omni Boost. Bosh just pondering life's greatest questions, for sure. I was still slowed, that's why. Bullet Seed. That's a multi-hit move, isn't it? That might actually be super worth. Let's take a look here. 2 to 5 times. It's a physical move. I might replace Quick Attack with that. What's the range? I didn't look at the range. Line of sight. Yo, definitely replacing Quick Attack. Okay, now he has like a worthwhile move. Line of sight physical attack? That's wild. Swords Dance is gonna be broken on him. You deal with this. You can go directly to his moveset instead of menuing more. Oh, interesting. Thank you for telling me that. Man, they have the same moves too. Ah, but Grovyle knows so many moves. Why did the weather just become a sandstorm? Did someone use sandstorm? That's annoying. Get me off this floor. I don't care about the money. Oh, hey, we're done. Oh, I see it now. There it is. Oh, shit, there it is. Is that the passage of time? That's right. That's the passage of time. I went through that to go to the past. Celebi, only you can open the passage of time. Do your thing. Sure. Dust Noir, probably? What? That voice? It can't be. Hello to you all. It's been a while. Dust Noir. Dust Noir. Your scurrying carried you far, but sad to say, that's all over now. Showed up at the best time! A waitress just asked me how I found my food, and I reply with, I just looked to the left and there it was. Sableye too. That's crafty, Dust Noir. You allowed us to roam free, but kept your eyes on us the whole time. So you could capture Celebi as well. What? So you mean we were followed the whole time? Didn't see this coming. It's all my fault, Celebi. Oh? Apologies don't suit your style, my dear. You don't honestly think that I can be caught? Yeah! Yo, Prime Gaming. Thanks for the Prime Gaming. Part of the guild, part of the team.
Guild, part of the team.
Part of the guild, part of the team. Everyone, are you ready to fight? What? Of course. We're gonna power our way through. We'll push them aside and dive into the passage of time. Got it. Huh, so you'll resist. Spare yourself the effort. You've no chance of succeeding. Part of the guild of the team. Lucy, please. We won't know for sure. Unless we try. Dust Noir, you and me, now. Grovyle, are you really sure? Are you really such a fool to think that I'd come alone? What? Now, Master Dialga. Oh shit. Wow, it turned pitch black. He did the voice acting for me. Oh shit. That was menacing as fuck. Okay, we can put that back. Gonna get that printed on a t-shirt. Dude, that's such t-shirt material. That's... Grovyle! What is it? What is that? That's Primal Dialga. What? That is? What's wrong, Grovyle? Where's your bravado now? My dear Grovyle. This is it for us. A Wigglytuff guild hat would go hard. Absolutely. What? Why? Aren't we gonna fight? It's hopeless. Dust Noir on his own is one thing, but we don't stand a chance against Dialga. You two have kept up so well. I'm sorry to let you down. This is where it ends. But... I surrender. Do with me as you will. My dear Grovyle. What's the matter, Grovyle? It's not like you to give up so easily. That list on your phone of future t-shirts? I don't think I do. I think that's lost to time. No, Lucy, that's not... You'll have to do that one yourself. Yes, I'm giving up. But hope is still alive. Celebi, you remember that last time when I traveled back in time to prevent the planet's paralysis? I wasn't alone. There was another. Ooh, I got bad news for you, buddy. It's me. It's me, and I kind of failed too. What? Grovyle, you didn't come to our world alone? That's right. I had a partner. We headed to the past together. But when we were going through the passage of time, we had trouble. We became separated. My partner should still be back in the world of the past. Ooh.
Guild of the part. Team of the part. Yip yap.
Sorry, dude. I fucked up. Even if I am eliminated, my partner will see our mission through to the end. My partner will prevent the planet's paralysis. Check out Grovyle's turn speed in this cutscene. Okay. Ha! What's so funny? So you claim someone went to the past with you. Incidentally, what's the name of your partner? Go on. Say the name. Why ask such a thing? Can't tell me? No, that's not true. My partner's name is Draconayr. My best friend. Oh no! I'm so sorry. I fucked up. What? Grovyle.
Team of the part, Guild of the Team, yep.
Oh no, dude. I fucked up so bad. So, okay, so we went back in time, right? When did I figure it out? I think it was probably Celebi saying you're my friend was nail in the coffin. That's what I knew for absolute sure. I probably started that thought process once we learned that Grovyle was from the future, and I was like, oh, I probably came back with him from the future, and that's why I have the dimensional scream or something. Yeah, basically, yeah. Celebi kind of let that one slip. But that thread probably started when we learned that Dusknoir and Grovyle was from the future, and I was like, oh, I'm probably from the future. This is my first playthrough. I am blind. I have no idea what's this is all of this is coming at me as it stands. But yeah, so the thread started and I figured it out in this cutscene is when it became like a problem because suddenly there's no hope for the past because I kind of fucked up. Sorry, dude. I think the part of this cutscene that made me go wild was my best friend, not just from the future with him. That's where that shit got wild. Did you say Draconayr? This is Draconayr right here. Dude, look how fast he turned around. You were right, Salty. You were right. What? You're Draconayr? No, it can't be. It isn't. The Draconayr I know isn't a Pokemon. The Draconayr that I knew is a human. There's a lot going on, and Dialga is just like standing there watching it happening. What? Absolutely whips around. He wants to see his best friend so bad. Oh my god, dude, it's so sweet. Precisely. My good fellow, Grovyle, that is unmistakably your friend, Draconayr. What? That Pokemon you see was once a human. What? Master Dialga had given me a mission. It was to get rid of you, Grovyle, and Draconayr, because you fled to the past. I traveled through time in pursuit of you both. In the past, I gathered intelligence that might help me find you. Whiplash 7. Dude, Aniv, another relevant fucking message. Nah, let him cook. Welcome back to Mystery Dungeon, dropping plot twist after plot twist over the span of 2 fucking hours. Dude, the bot is sentient. It's wild. It really did just come up. Whiplash. Someone hacked. It's just an AI. I don't know, dude. It's learning. At one point, I met Team Talagar. I'm not gonna read this. I'm kind of over reading the dialogue of flashbacks because it's just the same. But at that point, I suspected nothing. Okay. When they mentioned the dimensional scream, I was skeptical at first, but then an idea began to take shape in my mind. And... ooh, shit. Oh, I'm so fucking annoyed with your partner. Literally spills your entire lore to a stranger, but oh no, we can't trust Grovyle. He's sussy. You know? You know, that you know, you're right. You're kind of right. You know, you're right. I think this was the cutscene where I went, dude, come on. They're looking for answers to the player's origins actively and don't see how it could be dangerous to let people know. I guess nobody is perfect. You simp! You simp! We're allowed to say that again on Twitch, right? Is that allowed? I'll have to mute that. It's fine. I don't care. So a former human with no memories, a human that possessed the dimensional scream. I became convinced then. Draconayr told the name to Draconayr. Oh, was that? That was just part of the dialogue. It wasn't a secret though, and everyone was constantly saying the Great Draconayr knows everything. Oh, you're right. You're right. He actually already knew because he knows everything. So actually, he didn't reveal any secrets. That's that smile right there. Yeah, so this cutscene, I was like, oh, Draconayr knows who I am. And then when they said, when Draconayr announced that he was from the future, that's when I was like, oh, okay, so I'm from the future too. That was that thread. There was no doubt. This Draconayr was the very one that I had been seeking. So that Draconayr developed amnesia and was transformed into a Pokemon, which must be because of the accident during your time travel. Well, Draconayr's memory loss was a lucky stroke for me. After all, your partner failed to recognize who I am. It was quite easy to win over your partner's trust, and it was also easy to drag them into the future when the time came. Draconayr really was lying, which left you, Grovyle, in the last part of my job to finish. I was a human from the future? And I was Grovyle's partner on a mission to prevent the... Dude, I'm so smart for this game. I'm smarter than myself. I figured this out fucking 2 hours ago. All I had to say was the dimensional screen, but he was like, oh yeah, and here's his original species, full name, his social security number, and the last 3 digits on the back of his credit card. A Niv! Dude, another fucking relevant message! Oh my god. A Niv's on a roll tonight, dude! Is this game Detective Pikachu fan? No, it's not. It's not. These are actually like... Honestly, I think these games are better than the normal Pokemon games. But, honestly, though, I mean, I did the same thing when that cutscene happened. I was like, okay, thanks, dude. They were just telling him all that shit. Oh my god. And I was Grovyle's partner on a mission to prevent the planet's paralysis and tie him with Clark's world? Grovyle and Draconayr, with the both of you here, everything will end when we finally dispose of you. That will finally put an end to Grovyle's glimmer of hope. Everything ends. Now I'm imagining Grovyle giving the Ansem speech from Kingdom Hearts 1. What's the fucking... All worlds begin and end in darkness. Everything ends for you. Draconayr, no. Have you finally come to terms with your fate? This is my first Pokemon game. Imagine how disappointed I was when I went to play the normal ones. Instead of being a Pokemon, you capture them instead. Lame. They were looking for information on how we turned into Pokemon in the first place. We really weren't, though. That wasn't ever a goal. Trico was your partner's like, I mean, I'll try and help you, I guess. But then we never like searched for it. We never even told the other guild members that I was human. if searching for information on how Hyde became human, the first person I would have told is Chatot, because at the time he is the most knowledgeable Pokemon. And then talking to Uxie also was like, Connor is a human, do you know who he is? And that was the other thing. So like, if it was a main goal, it would have come up sooner. Instead, it was like if we come across something, we'll find it. But I don't think Dusk Noir was enough for my partner to give him my social security number, you know? Wigglytuff. I think it would have been Chatot, because Chatot is like, I mean, he's self-proclaimed encyclopedia, but he obviously wouldn't have known. And then, I don't know. The three-leg Pokemon. I think definitely the three-leg Pokemon would have been next. Grovyle! Draconayr! We shall be rid of you for all time. This is the... Oh, sorry, I had a hiccup. 1 second. I had a late lunch. This is the end for you. Wah, wah. The trust your partner throws around drives me insane, and I love Grovyle, and I'm bitter. Because I picked Skitty instead of Charmander. Well, that's a shame, because I'm a Charmander. And now Aniv is picking what I assume is Spanish with what looks like... No, okay. I think it's supposed to be Spanish. Grovyle is a good boy. Grovyle, you can't give up. You say not to give up? What can we possibly do in this bleak situation? We have to think. I know. Celebi, can you time travel ability transport us just a short distance into the passage of time? It won't be easy with they have different voices. It won't be easy with Dialga here. Dialga is the temporal Pokemon. It controls time itself. Even if I can make us travel to time, he'll have no trouble exposing it. It just has to work for an instant. Please. Attack. Hold on, I dropped something. Hold on. It's fine. It's fine. I dropped something on the ground. There we go. Attack. This is such a gamer moment from your partner. I'm so less mad. So I'm less mad. I don't feel like crying and I started to get into it. Okay, no. I mean, that's fair. Honestly, I just think Charmander goes with everyone. That's fine. I guess I'm stuck on Charmander Riolu because of a fanfiction I read, and I ship the fuck out of them. Charmander Riolu, I ship them. I ship them. Time to travel. Where? Where? They've vanished. Master Dialga. Oh, hold on. I guess we'll do this. I'll read the chat in a moment. I'm gonna pay attention to this. I'm only bitter at the partner for his trust thing. You play who you want to play as and with. Myself into our house so I can fucking get you. The DS screen. Dude, he broke my DS screen. The fourth wall? Fuck that. Get out of here. Some bullshit. Our time traveling path shattered. There they are. We almost made it to the passage of time. Dive in now. You can make it. Now. Into the passage of time. This word. What about you? Don't fret over me. I told you I can't be caught. Stop the planet's paralysis. Change history. Thanks. Thank you, Celebi. You're not getting away. Um, 100% play who you want. I mean, Skitty's pretty cute. I did see an animatic with a Totodile and a Skitty, and it was really cute. It was really, really cute. So I also agree with Skitty. Gah. 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 Whoa! Yes. Whoops. No saving. We're not allowed to save. Chapter 16. A New Dawn. Skitty and Toto are the speedrun meta. Oh, really? Hey, we ended up back on the beach. Treasure Town! What? Draconayr? Where? Isn't this where I met you? It's like that beach. So that means... No, it is. We're in the past. We made it back to our world. Wait, how far though? Are we in the right spot? Did we come back where we left? Oh god. I'm scared. Play as Pikachu because I didn't know how to manipulate the questions back then. You look it up. That's how you do it. You look it up. We made it. Ugh. Grovyle. Look, we made it home. So we did it. We made it through. Back to this world. Yeah, this is where I met Draconayr. Let's see. I was 12 years old. Look it up. I think it was right here. This is where I found you. So that's what happened. That trip through time sent me into the eastern forest. Draconayr and I both reached your world far away from each other. Oh, that's right. There's a lot I don't understand, like the whole concept of time travel. There's a lot I don't understand, like all of it. Drowsy, for example, Dusknoir, but he's told Grovyle is bad, and it takes forever to trust him even after Dusknoir is proven to be heathen. That is true. I like that you're now calling him Clar instead of the partner, and that's just Clar, you're the partner name now, default partner name. Will you please explain it to us? But this isn't really the place to talk, so let's go to Wigglytuff's guild and talk there. Before we went to the future, we trained there and roomed there. It'll be the perfect place. Let's go to Wigglytuff's guild. Hold on. Will I be well received if I go to the guild? After all, I'm a wanted outlaw in this world. If I went to your guild, won't everyone be shocked? Don't you think they tried to capture me? Come to think of it, you're right. What to do? I know. There's a good place. But it will involve going through Treasure Town. Shouldn't be a problem if we lie low and sneak through. Lead the way. Okay. It's this way. There's a message from the Export Team Federation. Team Charm. Okay. Yes. Glad that we got that. Partner is just incredibly trusting by nature. Someone told that Grovyle was a bad guy. He trusts that so intensely he feels to see the truth. Team Charm, yo, I love them. Right? Sharpedo. Team Gaslight, Gatekeep Girl Boss. What a name. Is this early? Yeah, I guess so. It's really funny to see him trust villains so easily, and then one guy gets framed, and he's just like, "Nah, you can't be good. I told you he was bad." It's kind of the same things I'm annoyed by Terra for in Birth by Sleep, where he just trusts everyone, and then after learning that people you trust can be bad guys, he just still always trusts the first person instead of being any amount of skeptical. This glyph is known as Sharpedo Bluff. Sharpedo Bluff. Yeah, I think the name comes from the fact that the cliff itself is shaped like the Pokemon named Sharpedo. As far as I can tell, nothing seems out of the ordinary. How did you know about this? It's down here. I lived here before I joined the guild. Go ahead. Oh, okay. I guess he lived here. I mean, they're always like very energetic and kind of just trusting of whatever and exciting. So I don't really, it's kind of whatever. The man needed a place to... Well, I didn't know he lived here. I see. This is a hollow chamber in the face of the cliff. Melon! Watermelon! Glad no one's wrecked the place. It's proof of how little notice this place attracts. May be better if we stay here for the time being. Agreed. Man, we could use a fucking nap, that's for sure. Running away for 8 years. But Draconayr, I never expected you to be that very same Draconayr. Grovile, can you tell us more about that? Yes. Draconayr and I, we were jointly investigating this planet's paralysis. A Pokemon and a human? Paired together? Yes. And Draconayr had, or has, a special ability like no other. We relied on that ability to investigate the planet's paralysis. It played a vital part. He's suddenly ever so slightly British. By special ability, you mean the Dimensional Scream, don't you? Exactly. But the Dimensional Scream has a drawback. It requires the presence of a trusted Pokemon partner. Without that partner, the ability cannot be triggered. A trusted partner? That's why we work together. The Dimensional Scream is set off by triggers tied to places where the time gears are hidden. We need to find out where the time gears were in the past. We needed the Dimensional Scream to accomplish that. Makes you think that if the whole time Grovile was worried you had died. Oh, maybe, you know? I wouldn't be surprised until you see them thinking, who calls their child Draconayr? What a dumb name. Well, it's a nickname, dude. Chill. It's a nickname. Wait a second. You said that there has to be a trusted partner nearby for the Dimensional Scream to work. But the Dimensional Scream was triggered not long after we met. Your point? Doesn't that show how much you two trusted each other from the start? When you put it like that, it's a little embarrassing. In addition, Draconayr developed amnesia. Upon meeting you, your partner had someone to turn to. Perhaps Draconayr grew to trust you very quickly because of that. Oh, guys, I'm right here. Can you, like, include me in this conversation that's about me? There's another thing I don't understand. Is the Dimensional Scream triggered in response to only time gears? Right. The opposite is also true. The Dimensional Scream is not triggered in places that aren't connected to time gears. Really? That's not how I remember it. Listen, do you remember that time you went off near Drowsy? And during our first exploration? And where there were the other times too. We went to places that seemed to have nothing to do with time gears. But even in places like that, the Dimensional Scream was triggered sometimes, wasn't it? Are you sure? But that never happened in the future. The Dimensional Scream was never triggered by places that had no tie to time gears whatsoever. Well, if that's true, I don't know why it would work differently here. Maybe because time isn't frozen? Trico line only conversation. I feel like if I allow that message, that I would get in trouble. So I'm not going to. I'm gonna leave it, it's fine. Yeah. Welcome to the Pokeverse. If that's true, I don't know. Okay. Perhaps things are just different in this world. Perhaps the nature of the Dimensional Scream is altered in the past. So in the future, the Dimensional Scream doesn't work in places that have no connection to time gears? Oh, that explains it. Maybe that's why that time, when we were in the future, nothing worked. Oh, that's right. It threatens your e-boy career. Yeah, I gotta be the next Ludwig. You meant mine, and I was confused and worried I broke a rule. No. I have Automod. Sometimes, most of the time, he's a little nuisance, but he's just doing his job, so it's fine. But sometimes he will catch something, and I'll go, maybe I won't allow that. So you're good, Salty. That was Lucy. If you send a message that Automod blocks, I think it will tell you. It will say your message was not sent. I've been banned. Sarah, you're not banned. Since I don't read the flashbacks anymore, my throat hurts. It's almost 10. This game really needs. I hope Final Fantasy 14 starts a trend where games that have long sequences of cutscenes now tell you are going to be seeing a long sequence of cutscenes, and make sure you have time set aside for this. Like Final Fantasy 14 telling you you're about to sit down for 30 minutes is wonderful, and I hope games do that from now on. The cat girl ear headphones. I don't know about that, dude. I'm gonna get a V2 model soon, so maybe the cat girl headphones will have to wait. Everything that happened in the past 2 hours broke my mind as a kid. Yeah, understandable. Time travel. I love time travel when it's done right. In this game, the time travel is a big component of the game, but the way time travel works is not. So it's not confusing. Unlike Dragon Ball Z, where you don't know what the fuck is going on. But in this game, the way time travel works, it doesn't matter if it's multiverse or the like one timeline that you're changing. Like, it doesn't matter. You can just, like, the point is time travel is relevant. There's the future and then the past, and that's the parts that's important, and that's it. And I think that's very easy for a kid to understand. And I can see why that would be such like a mind-blowing situation as a child. You got auto-mounted once because Grovile is probably a lot of first crush. But they just don't want you to speak the truth. Where is the lie? Saying the bad word? No, it's fine. You're good, dude. I'm not gonna ban you. Multiverse theory is my favorite because it's the easiest to understand as an adult. But as a child, it's all kind of doesn't make sense. So I think it's better as a child for them to just not really touch on how time travel works, just that it works. and I think that this game has done that very well. Okay, that's just the cutscene where that didn't work. Maybe I couldn't envision anything that time we were in the future because we were in a place that wasn't tied to a time gear. Maybe that's why Dimensional Scream failed to work. Maybe Grovile is right about the future and the past being different. Different enough to make my Dimensional Scream ability work differently. Anyway, like I was saying, we were investigating the planet's paralysis. We used the Dimensional Scream ability to identify the locations of the time gears in your world while we were in the future. That's it. Here, a time gear is here. I see. Place the drought stone in Groudon's heart. That lifts the fog. Very well done. After identifying the locations where the time gears would be in the past, we took a passage of time that brought us from our world into your future to this world. However... Whoa! Are you okay? No, don't let go. Just a little longer. Come on, hang on. No, I can't. Hold on. Wow. Chat's going. We encountered turbulence while we were traveling through time. Turbulence and time travel? Fuck that. Fuck that, dude. It's not fun at all. Well, when you heard your partner talking to you for a second time. Yo, dude, wild. Back to the Future rules for time travel or easy rules. I mean, they're easy rules if you don't pay attention to the stuff that makes it not make sense. Like the grandmother or the grandfather paradox or whatever. Partner being Grovile. Yeah. What did TFS Trunk say when Cell asked him what he knows about time travel? Something like less than I should, more than I want to, I think. Something like that. Or no, it was less than I should. Hold on. What was the quote? It was something like that. More than I should, less than I want to. Something like that. The Dimensional Screen pulls back those deep memories of Grovile. What are all the common time travel variations? I think it's mostly the circle one. Back to the Future, where you jump backwards, but it's still the same timeline, so anything you do affects the future you came from. And then Multiverse Theory, where you're dumping to just a different timeline. So anything you change doesn't change where you came from, because it's a different timeline. Those are the three. I think the circle one is like a fixed point. Thing. I don't know. I remember it exists. I'm afraid to look it up, because my stream might crash. Give me a second. Methods of time travel. In pop culture. Okay, so Terminator, Back to the Future, those are the oh, that's telling me like I'll have to look it up later. We'll do it at the end of the stream. I'm gonna end the game and it's fine. Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time is the same as I think that's the Back to the Future one. No, it isn't. I think Ocarina of Time is multiverse. Because there's the timeline where you defeat Ganon. But you also go back in time and experience a different timeline. Because in that, now Ganon is sealed away. And that leads to Wind Waker. Or Majora's Mask Twilight Princess. You didn't see Life 2. Most used qualifier on a Google search for sure. Okay, back to the game. We'll come back to the time travel conversation after I find a spot to end the stream. We encountered turbulence while we were traveling through time. Thus, Draconayr and I became separated. For some reason, Draconayr got amnesia and I was turned into a Pokemon. I could only guess that it had something to do with our accident while traveling through time. I came from the future. Not just that, I came with the mission to preventing the planet's paralysis. I don't know, it seems so outlandish. I don't really feel... It doesn't feel real somehow. So, Draconayr, you may not remember any of this, but you were my closest friend. I worried about you when we were separated. I'm glad to see you're safe. Your appearance may have changed, and though you lost your memory, you're still you. And none of this alters the fact that I remain your friend. Draconayr, I'm glad to see you again. Now, we have to decide on our course of action. Like I've told you before, I'm going to collect the time gears again. What are you going to do? I'm a little worried about how time stops in the region where its time gears removed. But you're sure that it will only be temporary? That's right. As soon as the time gears are set into place at the temporal tower, time will be restored to its normal state everywhere. Well then, we'll go too. We'll go with you. Taking a time gear will badly affect the Pokemon that live in that area, but we have to prevent the planet's paralysis. Okay then, we'll go together. But the hour is late. We're also exhausted from all the running we've done. We should rest up tonight. We'll leave in the morning. There we go. 3 saves and cutscenes. Yeah, so there's the... Never mind. We'll come back to that. It's fine. Okay. Because the Zelda stuff is really interesting, but there will be a spot stop soon. Good, because I need to rest. Almost too close. Now you're getting weird. Groval's sitting there thinking, dang, Draconayr has a type, I guess. Is Draconayr a furry? And B, did he just achieve a lifelong dream by becoming a Charmander? If we're talking about me, Draconayr, me, absolutely, both true. Claw isn't here. Maybe outside. Bitch, I'm sleeping. That's okay. I sleep through anything. What's the matter? Can't sleep? Yeah, just thinking. Well, I can. Good night. More of a scaly. It's a subsect. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Thinking about Dust Noir. No, that's not it. Sure, finding we were deceived came as a real shock. But hearing your story earlier, it really drove it home. What Dust Noir said in the future was really true. And it made me realize that Draconayr really did come from the future. I was mulling over things like that. Hey, look! Sunlight! It's pretty, isn't it? Yes. Maybe it's because we were in the future for so long, but I didn't think that a sunrise could ever feel so renewing. The sun rises, then it sets. We take that for granted, and it's only natural. But things we take for granted, they're really the most essential things, and they're precious. All I'd ever known was the future's world of darkness. Upon coming to this world, and seeing the sun for the first time, it was staggering. Seeing it, it strengthened my resolve to turn history away from a future of darkness. There was one thing that I wanted to ask of you. It's about that time in the future, when we were confronted by Dialga. Frankly, we were in a no-win situation. There was no hope. That's a good point. Being a grass type in the sun for the first time. Bruh, for real. That would be... I can't imagine how that would feel. It probably would feel like you are living a new life, to be honest. Reborn. We saw this an hour ago. My body is breathing! But when all seemed lost, you refused to give up. Even I had given up. What compelled you? How did you manage to stay so strong? Well, I wonder too. I really don't know. Maybe it was because Draconayr stood by me. Draconayr. Take a look at this. This, what could it be? There's not a pattern inscribed in it. I've never seen anything like it. The pattern is new to me. This is my relic fragment. It's my personal treasure. It goes to the temporal tower, because that's the only place we haven't been yet, and it's only come up twice in the game, and the game's almost over. It just breaks the fourth wall. I have this dream one day of solving the mystery behind this relic fragment. It'll happen when we go to Temporal Tower after we steal all the time gears. Sorry, I'm fucking around. But I was such a coward. I couldn't work up the courage to go to the guild and apply as an apprentice. It was then that I met Draconayr. So this is I think this is the most flashbacked scene in this game so far. Is the waterfall. I'll leave it horizontal because both screens are still relevant because of the sunrise and stuff. Draconayr was always there to cheer me up. And this is scary, but we need to be brave. I'm gonna solar beam the fuck out of him. It was an important moment. I mean, yeah, I assume a lot of the like character building moments were important for him because he's, you know, growing. It all gave me courage. With Draconayr, I felt like I could overcome any challenge, especially once he found Solar Beam in that cave. That's how I came to feel over time. Maybe that's why I was able to keep going without giving up. Alright, I think I understand what you're saying. Draconayr is a special quality that makes others feel that way. The same way that I care for Draconayr as a friend, you also feel that way. Draconayr is lucky to be blessed with a friend like you. Well, it's morning. We should be leaving soon. Yeah. They didn't recover the... It's the true hero going through an arc, and I agree. Interesting. It's agreed that we will collect all of the time gears. First, we have to decide which time gear we should target. Let's check the Wonder Map. From here, the underground lake would be the closest. How about Tree Shroud Forest? That's where I got my first time gear the last time. Where's that? Here. It is a little far from here, but there is no one like Uxie guarding that time gear. Great! If we were to fight someone over the time gear, that would attract attention. But that won't be a concern here, right? Exactly. That's it then. That's where we're going. Onward to Tree Shroud Forest. Oh, finally, okay. We got a special episode to do too, dude. This is wild. This is it. The entrance to Tree Shroud Forest. Oh. What is it? The atmosphere somehow feels different than last time. No, I must be imagining it. We'll go in when you're ready. Alright, let's fucking... Okay, we're gonna be done. God, there's a lot. So much lore. Okay, let's catch up. We'll go back to the time travel stuff. We might be gay. we might be. He goes through a lot of growing. I mean, I feel like the problem with the Mystery Dungeon games is that you're the main character. But there's not a lot of stuff happening with you because it feels scripted in a weird way, and also you don't interact directly with a lot of the party members. A lot of your dialogue is in parentheses. It's denoted through an idle animation and then a dialogue that just says you told them, like D&D style, but you don't, like, I'm a D&D player, but I don't like role playing, so I just say I tell them about this thing. That's kind of how, and it feels disconnected in a way. So I can totally see how the partner in this game is going through a big arc like that. Let's bring this back. A walking side, kinda, yeah. Which is normally fine in a lot of games when the character is like a character. But since I'm choosing the character and I'm naming the character after myself, it feels a little bit different. And that's kind of why I like the ending of Super Mystery Dungeon so much. Because I can guess where this game is going to end with how the partnership... I mean, the end of each game is a failure, is a partnership disconnect. In spoilers for all the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games. I haven't played Time. Don't remember, or not Time. I haven't played Gates to Infinity. Don't know. Don't care. We'll get there. Rescue Team ends with you fading away to go back to the human world, and then wishing as hard as you can to come back as a Pokemon and stay there. Super Mystery Dungeon, or the way I guess this game ends is that I have to go back to the future and also be taken away from my partner. Another growth for the partner. Both of those are the partner growing because I have to leave. In Super Mystery Dungeon, the whole game, or like when you get to the climax of the game, it's very insinuated that once you fix the world, you have to leave. And then they twist it. Spoilers. Final spoiler warning for Super Mystery Dungeon. And then they twist it so that that's actually your partner, is his job is done and he leaves and you're in this world now alone. And that's why I like the ending of that game so much, because that game feels more like your character has grown instead of the partner character, which is fine because they obviously do it well in these other games. But sometimes I want to grow too, you know? Just saying. I'm just saying. Sometimes I want to be the one that grows. Anyways, different types of time travel. So there's okay, so that one doesn't count. So there's multiverse theory, where when you make a change in the past, it creates a new timeline and doesn't change your original timeline. World lines, branching realities. Then there's the circle theory is that time travel is part of the story. Like, the time travel made it happen in the first place. I think that's Terminator, where the guy was sent back in time to protect Sarah Connor so that she could have the kid that leads them against the robots. But the guy that's sent back in time is that guy's dad. So, like, him going back in time was required for that story to take place, for him to go back in time. Like, the time travel is part of the core of the time travel. That's what the Circle One was. That's not true. That's not true. The thing you're reading is not true. The Back to the Future one is where the time travel happens, and that's the reason the time travel happens, because he goes back in time, bangs the mom, and then has John Connor as his kid. And so him going back in time is part of the future. Like that's gonna happen. It has to happen. And it's like that time loop that's part of it. And then there's time loop, Groundhog Day. It's just reliving the same day over and over again. And then I think those are the 4 big ones, and then the others are just like weird other just examples of it. So those are the different kinds of things. But anyways, let's find someone to raid. I hope someone's streaming. We can raid somebody. Chris Key is still streaming. I was gonna decide between Chris and Yak, but Chris has less viewers, so let's raid him. They're playing Pokemon Unite. It's also relevant because we were playing Pokemon, so. Oh, unless they're ending the stream. It looks like the stream might be ending. There's people in the chat are saying bye. Hold on a second. Oh, okay. It sounds like they're done. So never mind. We're gonna raid Yak. They're playing Power Ross Simulator. Jesus. Okay, it was very loud. I could just raid Chris instantly and it'd be funny. But actually, I think we're gonna do that. We're gonna raid Chris. I'm gonna make this fast. I'm not streaming on Saturday because I'm gonna be out of town on Saturday. So we're not gonna stream. Go raid Chris, tell them they're very cute, and hit them with our new raid message, which is the part of the guild, part of the team. And it looks like this. And also, if you're not in my Discord, here it is. Whoops, it's actually here. There it is. Oh, never mind, I spelled it wrong again. There we go. That's my Discord. If you're not in it, join it. Now we're gonna go raid Chris, and before he ends the stream, and then you're gonna type the message. Thank you everyone for hanging out. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.